As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
My sole and exclusive mission is to go to work for our country, to go to work for you. It's time to deliver a victory for the American people. We don't win anymore, but we are going to start winning again.
I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark, gothic MAGA.
From mountain to mountain, from ocean to ocean, hear these words. You will never be ignored again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Trump's house, brother.
I will always give you my love. America is a nation of believers, dreamers, and strivers. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. We will bring back our wealth. And we will bring back our dreams. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
EWBSX.
win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Astrolabe. And I fucking spoiled it because I forgot to change the, I forgot to have the chat showing at the beginning. And once that's happened, I can't change it until the show goes live. Oh, how you guys doing? What is going on, everyone? What a banger of a pre-show. Cyberbully is out doing himself. Tremendous, tremendous. I went live a little early to YouTube to see if we'll do a little boundary testing here. Let's see if YouTube flags that here's hate breed and says no, the stream must come down. If so, it'll just clip off the beginning. But hopefully those of you, if it stays there, and those of you who are there live, will get a little taste of what the pre-show is like over on Kick, if you watch the stream on Kick. Thank you for your attention to this matter right here. Mr. President, Sarajevo must burn. And then when we're done with that, we're going to swing by Rio. Did you guys watch the game last night? What a fucking atrocity, man. This is such a great moment, and I want to be able to appreciate the moment for what it is. The United States showing out on the global stage like they have never, I mean, they've made it this far before, but not looking this good. Not looking this good. And that's what I want to think about. I don't want to think about the fact that the best player in the tournament is not going to be available for the hardest game now. Just a fucking atrocity. I've been honed through years of life. College football referees, NFL referees, baseball umpires. Angel Hernandez is I have a little voodoo doll of Angel Hernandez that I abuse regularly just for all the hell that he's put me through. And this World Cup has definitely had its share of questionable calls, let's say. But man, what an absolute atrocity. And specifically, it's so bad. The spirit that's rising up around America because of this World Cup, to then stain that with complete officiating malpractice is just such a shame. But nonetheless, now as I saw someone on X said, this is perfect. Now either the U.S. wins the World Cup, or we lose early, and then we get to blame the refs and complain that it was rigged against us. Perfect. This is a perfect outcome. No matter what, we win. America beats 2 countries in one game. That's right. That's how much they're rigging it against us. They're forcing us to play 2 countries at the same time. Oh, the Balkans. Enchanted Hero says, greetings to Jason from Kick. Mr. Miranchuk now is here for this. I also see Gaga in the chat. Hello, Gaga. We'll see you very soon. She is crossing our great nation right now, headed out to come see her sweet little grandson. We're going to change the World Cup, officially change the name to FISA, and we're changing the gay European rules. They rig our cups like they rig our elections. So true, Mr. President. Mr. President, we need commentary. No, it was a very good game. It was very, very mature performance. This is a thing that has plagued the United States. United States soccer teams have historically been, let's say, kind of psychologically weak. And they're obvious underdogs in most competitions, and they have a tendency to collapse under pressure. And then the style of play is basically what Bosnia and Herzegovina were doing yesterday, which is we can't really compete on this stage, so we're going to do our best to just muck it up, destroy the flow of the game, flop for fouls, play as physically as the ref will permit us. And the ref was very happy to play directly into their hands to accommodate their style of play. But this is a new U.S. men's national team. This is a more mature U.S. men's national team. Matt, since we're on sports ball, where do you think Braun is going? I don't recognize basketball. I don't have room in my brain anymore for basketball. So I don't know. Hopefully away. Does that work? Hopefully away. You know, it's funny. When I was in college, I followed basketball very closely. It was like during and then shortly after the Sonics were stolen away to Oklahoma City. Rest in piss, David Stern. And the thing that defined the NBA at the time was the Kobe versus LeBron debate. And I could not stand Kobe. Growing up as a Sonics fan, I had very strong feelings about the Lakers and could not stand Kobe. And then, now, I look back on the great tragedy that was the death of Kobe Bryant, and I rue the day that we were stuck with LeBron James. Very anti-Kobe until about 2015. Yeah, it was basically for me as well. From a technical perspective, I didn't care that much about LeBron, like the person or the individual, whatever, just him, the basketball player, and I liked his game. But yeah, now I just hope he goes away. So I gave you guys a little spoiler, so we'll just jump into it. I was going to set this up as this is a fantastic performance, the United States showing out on the global stage, and I was going to show you the best highlights from it. And here it is. Imagine this is the World Cup. What do you mean imagine? This is literally what I watched yesterday. I sat down in my living room and I watched the World Cup, and it played out exactly like this.
Okay, boys, let's run Operation Epic Balls of Fury. Guys, please don't suck.
Maybe Michael can sub in.
What?
Okay, first up we have the GOAT.
Ah! He gets hit in the face! Unbelievable! What a shot!
He's a world-class athlete!
Okay, we got Sleepy Joe up next and eating ice cream. Oh, and he whiffs it! He completely misses the ball! Incredible moves by Fat JD. Here comes the meme legend.
There's so much pop!
Ah, face shot! Face shot again! Unbelievable!
Let's go!
Next we have the first gay president. What was that?
You know what? I'll just do it myself.
Uh-oh, looks like Pretty Boy is mad. Again to the dome!
Take that,
His
Gaben!
brain is hanging on for dear life.
Team retard. I don't know. Everyone wants to talk shit about soccer. Oh, I'm too good for the World Cup. I'm not going to pay attention to it. And then you miss out on gems like this. The video of Obama throwing out the first pitch. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay. All right, now hold on a second here. Need to fix a couple of things, and then we've got some Dale drops. Jeff!
I can't think of anything gayer and more retarded than a panicking. Donald J. Trump is the greatest American that America has ever squeezed Americanly from her robust American loins.
So true! Wow, incredible points being made by Dale. Thank you, Dale. And Dr. Doom Guy! JD in the background. And he doesn't say anything. Thank you, sir. And then politically Catholic. Oh, hold on. I have to let the other event finish playing. Politically Catholic.
Please verify that the Thielbuck sound and automation are working for later in the show.
They are working. I believe they are. Let me know if you guys are not hearing it, but everything looks good on my end, as if they're actually coming through. Speaking of Tealbucks, by the way, there is nothing for the particular Tealbucks alert. I haven't set that up yet, so there is nothing for particular for the $200 alert. It'll just be the generic alert. Speaking of, you guys blew away Amy. The other night, at the very end of the show, I dropped the link to Eastwood's Amazon gift list for his homeschool curriculum. Right at the very, very end of the show, I dropped it there. And by the time I got downstairs, Amy was already agape. She was like, people are buying things already. And then over the next several hours, as she said people just kept buying stuff. So she kept adding stuff to the list, and stuff was getting bought as fast as she was adding it to the list. You guys absolutely blew her away. You touched her very, very much. You guys are incredible. Thank you to every one of you. She is very let me tell you something about my wife. My wife does not do surprises. If you want to surprise her with something, it could be the best thing in the world, and it would ruin it for her if you surprised her with it. If she knows that there's a surprise coming and she doesn't know what it's going to be, she will be on pins and needles. So like surprise birthday parties, these sorts of things, or like I got you a thing, but you don't get to know what it is yet. All of these things. No, she needs to know now. So she is pacing around. She is on edge because she doesn't know who purchased these things. She's very grateful anyways. And if you want to remain anonymous, she is very grateful, but she has been beside herself. Who is it? Who are these generous people? I want to thank them personally. So if you would like to identify, I guess now anybody could just do a stolen valor thing. She's going to be inundated by people saying, "It was me." Yes, that's exactly her. I want to shake your hand. Slutty milk.
Welcome to the suck, homo.
Thank you, Emperor Atreides. Cheeky was there last night. He was in the chat as we were all over in the King Pill Discord. We took over the general chat. Usually there's a sports ball one, but when the United States is playing, nothing else matters. And we spammed the general chat, and we were freaking out and cussing and yelling and advocating for war crimes against all manner of people. But so for the, I guess, the people who are interested, who have never really followed it before, but now that they see our boys doing stuff, they want to know. At this point right now, going up against Belgium is easily a top 10 team in the world. And the gap in competition between the top soccer teams and lower ones is probably difficult for an American sports ball fan to fully grasp, because there isn't that level of gap doesn't really exist in any other sport. American sports tend to have much narrower bands of competition level. But when you have this big global competition like this, it would be like some of the best NFL teams playing against an assortment of college football teams. You know, like there is a massive gap in competition. It's like comparing pro baseball to t-ball. Yeah. So, like, everyone knows at this point now that we're just playing up until France wins the World Cup. It would take a monumental performance by some other team or some huge stroke of luck or something like that for it to be someone other than France. But so the rest of the teams, like Belgium, is definitely top 10. I think they're currently ranked like 6th or something like that. But the thing with Belgium is that they're on the back end of their talent pool. Most of their players have aged. They've got a lot of older players, but they have a tendency to maybe be a little more up and down, and they've been kind of underwhelming in the World Cup so far. They were getting their asses handed to them by Senegal yesterday until like the 85th minute. And then they pulled their best players off the pitch and proceeded to mount an amazing comeback, and then got a huge assist from the video assistant referee, and managed to knock off Senegal to advance to play the United States. The United States, if the United States was at full strength, Belgium would be favored. However, the United States has a lot more of the momentum coming into this. They've strung together a long sequence of good performances where they've, when their starters are playing, they're taking the game to their opponent. Whereas Belgium has been more just kind of holding on for dear life. And they've managed to achieve results, but if there was a top team for the United States to face in this round, Belgium would be the best of the crop. They're the most gettable. So, and then you factor in home field advantage. The game is going to be in Seattle, where that great Australia match was. And so it should be... Cheeky says, we're legit better than Belgium now. The world will see next match. Yeah, there's a very good... I think I would take, as a neutral, I would take the United States against Belgium in this environment. Now, being without Flo Balogun, the striker, this is very funny. So what I put in the title, I said something about... I wanted to put Anchor Baby, but YouTube would probably get mad at that. So I said, after 5-4 SCOTUS decision, product of birth tourism propels USA to victory. It's a delicious, delicious irony. Because Flo Balogun has been the U.S.'s best player in the tournament. Weston McKennie has also been very, very good, but I think the U.S. could have lost games with Weston McKennie in there that they did not lose because Flo Balogun was there. So he has been not just the best player on the team, but he's been one of the best players in the tournament. And he got sent off on a bullshit red card. And the worst part of that was not just missing the rest of that game. Bosnia didn't have a prayer. They didn't belong on the field with the U.S. There was no way that they were going to win that game. So even the U.S. being down a man for 35 minutes didn't matter. It was workmanlike. Bosnia never threatened. And in fact, they actually scored a goal. I got a video of that here in a minute. One of the greatest goals that you'll ever see. Just fantastic. Absolute scenes. But the next game, though, they will be missing him for that. And there's even the possibility, it would be, man, FIFA is out of their minds if they suspend him they turn it into a longer suspension. But at minimum, he's going to be out for the next game. There is no appeal the decision or anything. Now, it should never have been reviewed in the first place. The goal or the incident did not pass muster according to the rule book for something that can be reviewed. But because when you slow it down, super slow-mo, and you take a picture at one precise moment, you could be like, oh, wow, that looks really, really bad. If you went up and intentionally stomped on a guy and almost broke his ankle, then like 100% you're going to get a red card and you're going to get suspended for multiple games. But the whole context of it matters. The guy came up from behind him. He's sort of stumbling. He's falling. He doesn't know where he's putting his foot. He's just trying to catch his balance. And so it should not have been reviewed. But once it was going to be reviewed, it was 100% going to be given a red card because that picture, that snapshot looked so bad. And the rules for the video assistant program explicitly say that slow-mo close-ups should not be the basis for changing a decision, for overturning a decision made on the field. So it would be very interesting. Yeah, does FIFA have B-2 bombers? Exactly. Johnny, do you want to be on the FIFA president? Do you want to be on the receiving end of a Sky Dorito? So there is perhaps the basis to say we're not appealing the red card. We're not granting an appeal and overturning the red card. We're saying that this was not, it can't be done this way, and so it was an invalid red card. But I'm not expecting that to happen. So the United States going up against Belgium is going to be an incredible game. The stakes have never been higher. So if the United States was to take it to Belgium, but then end up losing by a goal or something like that, then it would still be, given the way the United States has performed in this, and now the context of being without Balogun, it would be a clear declaration that a program that was totally out in the wilderness, seemed like it was on a downturn 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, has taken a clear step forward and is on the upswing. So the United States had to win the game yesterday. There was no upside, really. It was like, if you lose the game, it's a massive disappointment. If you win the game, good job, you did what you were supposed to do. Now, they did show a lot of character in not being completely knocked off kilter by the red card, because that very much, there's a lot of teams that would have been stunned by it, would have given up a quick goal all of a sudden, and then would have been holding on for dear life to hopefully try to get to penalties and then hope that you make it out. But no, they just locked it down, battened down the hatches, defended for a third of the game down a man, and actually controlled the game the entire time and went and scored a second. Bosnia did not belong on the field. So if the United States beats Belgium, the vibes in the country are going to be at an all-time high. It is going to be I told you guys coming into the World Cup that there was going to be a fervor that builds up in the country around it. I'm telling you, if the United States beats Belgium on Monday night, the lid is going to come off of this country. And then it's playing with house money from then on out. Because I think the next person, I saw Spain and Austria are playing right now. Spain, if France doesn't win, it'll probably be Spain. Yeah, so Spain beat Austria 3-0. Nobody was giving Austria a chance to move on. You got Portugal against Croatia. That's going to be they're pretty evenly matched teams. That'll be a good one. Thank you for the kicks, Impertrades. So it'll be Spain versus Croatia or Spain versus Portugal, and the United States would end up playing the winner of that. Croatia is probably on par with Belgium. Very similar sort of team. Portugal, honestly, is in the same vein as well. But I think Portugal is definitely better than Croatia and Belgium. And then Spain is clear above them. But there is, like, the U.S. hockey team going up against Russia. There was not a prayer. This is David and Goliath. And yet, it happened. And it became a fixture. It became a meme that persists in the American consciousness ever since then. What's incredible about the World Cup is that the game against Belgium isn't on par with that one for sure. The games after that, each of them will be on par with the U.S. versus Russia in hockey. And like getting more difficult as it goes. Because if they beat Belgium and then they were to beat Spain, assuming Spain is the one that comes out, then they would still have to go through France and Argentina after that. This would be completely uncharted territory. Remember, the Euros have chance, but we have college football stadium pulse. Yeah, now imagine combining those. Combining American college football stadiums and culture with the game of soccer and mashing those together, sort of like you have in Orthodoxy. You have Orthodoxy, and then you have the different regional cultures where they're celebrating the same liturgy, they're following the same church calendar, but they each have their own little different cultural idiosyncrasies. Could be the same thing. It is the same thing with soccer. There's a very similar dynamic there. They're all playing the same game, but they each have their own styles of play, their own types of players and stuff that reflect the countries they're representing. So doing this with the United States, having the United States ascend to it's written. It will happen. Whether this World Cup or the next one, the United States is on the ascendancy across all domains. So here is the goal, the second goal yesterday. One of the most exquisite live sports moments, sitting there watching this, knowing the sheer level of technical talent it would require to put this ball in the net. And then he fucking did it. And people didn't realize it at the time, but just before he took this kick, he had to change his cleats because he got stomped on. It cut a gash open on his cleat and cut his foot open, and he was bleeding into his cleat. His right foot, the one that he used for the shot. No card, no foul, nothing called for that, but he had his foot was gashed open. His bloody sock was, where they posted the picture of his bloody sock later on. Just silently changed it, stepped up, and knocked it home. But this here, maybe the greatest American video ever filmed. Listen to the commentary on this one.
This is it. This is 2-0.
Send them home, Wonder Boy.
Do it for Jefferson.
Send them home.
For Adams.
Yes!
Send them home.
For Washington.
Bring that fucking twine.
Screw these refs. USA.
Notice the bet here. I don't know if I can get this big enough to where you could see it. Yeah. Someone bet 1776 on the match result and won $2,421.82. I wonder if this is like 1980 or 2024, the year Trump was elected. I wonder if you could pull some numerology out of this. You have like 2024 was the year he was elected, and then is there something significant about 2 and 18 and 2? Oh, man. Homeless Nomad says, my coworker was at this game. Can't wait to ask him about the stadium energy on Monday. Yeah, it sounded like it was incredible. That just the difficulty level on that shot is just, I'm glad that there was this here because I wouldn't be able to show the actual live broadcast view of it. But that distance right there, to be able to, one of the defenders for Bosnia is 6'7". The other one is 6'4". The other one is 6'1". From this distance here, you have to get that ball up and over. You have to hit it high enough that it goes over them, but you have to hit it with enough spin that it will also drop down. And then you have to place it precisely where the goalkeeper can't reach it. The goalkeeper gave him this whole side of the net because he was like, you're not going to be able to get it over my defenders. So your guys are going to duck out of the way and you're going to try to bend it around into the goalkeeper's left. So he shaded to the goalkeeper's left and dared him to get it over his line. And he just casually just teardropped it, fading away from the keeper. Keeper gets a hand on it, can't stop it. God, I love sports. It's so good. And then this was the boys afterwards. In the airplane. Weston McKinney.
She's from Texas, I can tell by the way he's two-stepping round the room. And judging by the smile that's written on his face, there's nothing I can do. It doesn't take a crystal ball to see. A cowboy always finds a way to lead. Drinking Jack all by myself. Choosing Texas, I can tell.
U.S. boys singing about Jews in Texas.
I guess he forgot about the smoky mouth.
Look at our eyeliner boy. Oh, there's so many characters on this team. I could talk for hours about them. Yeah, Belgium's goalkeeper would stop that free kick for sure. Yeah. Courtois would not make a mistake like that. I think he's probably taller than him too. Yeah, Texas is ascending so fast in the global conscience. It's to see the U.S. team jamming out to country music after winning and celebrating under country roads. I don't know how to explain it, like how to use words to convey to you what a significant cultural moment this is. That these sorts of vibes and aesthetics are the things that are resonating with people. And you could just look at the surface of it and, it's like, it's commercialized or cheap or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's a given. These are the vibes that people want. People want the vibes of Texas, of country music, of America on the wild frontier who doesn't give a shit what anyone else thinks. We're just the best at everything. No one can compete with us. Everyone loves us, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can seethe and cry and whine all you want. It doesn't matter what America does. We don't even have to be the best team out there. We're going to have the best story, and we're going to have the moments that capture everyone's attention. If you if you can't just like intuitively sense that, I don't know what to tell you. You're just numb or something. You got to like lay off the SSRIs. What do you mean the greatest travel ad ever made for Chattanooga, Tennessee was created by the Spanish national football team? Football.
Hay lugares
a los que llegas pensando que lo importante será el destino. Pero cuando estás allí, nunca es el destino lo que importa, sino las personas que aparecen por el camino. Las que un día estaban lejos y al siguiente caminan a tu lado, casi sin darte cuenta, paso a paso, durante una conversación improvisada, en la risa que de pronto se desata, en un entrenamiento, en un día normal. Y resulta extraño, porque cuanto más caminas junto a alguien, menos importante es la distancia. Apenas importa dónde estás, porque un lugar cambia contigo. Y ni tú, ni él, seréis los mismos que cuando llegaste.
Tuz McGee says evidence of the inseparable element of Latin or Hispanic core to the U.S. ethnicity. Sir, what a nice layup you gave me there. This is something I wanted to. I have kind of like a premise or a concept, but I don't know. I don't know quite what to do with it just yet. However, a couple nights ago, Mexico played Ecuador. And for those who don't know, U.S. versus Mexico in the soccer world is like Cowboys and Giants. It is no love lost. When they play each other, both teams hate each other. It's always a shit show. You know, tempers flying, you know, fights, red cards. For a long time, Mexico has been better than the United States, but Mexico has been sort of floundering lately, while the United States has been ascending. They've each gotten each other at various times in recent years. But now Mexico is one of the hosts. So Canada, United States, and Mexico are the teams, or the countries hosting. Mexico is a host. So being a host, they automatically qualified. And they've been very, very good. They have yet to allow a goal through 4 matches now. And they just blew the doors off of Ecuador. Ecuador was flat and uninspired, and it was in Mexico, and the stadium was just going insane the whole time, and it was an ass kicking of the highest order. Now, Mexico is going to be playing England, and holy shit. Oh, and the other thing, before Mexico and Ecuador, the night before the game, the Ecuadorians are staying in a Mexican hotel, and all of the Mexican fans went out and were honking horns and letting off fireworks and chanting and screaming and playing noisemakers and outside their hotel so they couldn't sleep, which might explain why Ecuador came out and looked really flat and uninspired and slow to everything. Now, England, who squeaked one out through the just the absolute magic that is Harry Kane. They squeaked one out, so now they're going to be playing Mexico. And ordinarily, England is one of the titans, or top 5 teams. But they have their own history with the World Cup, especially of late, and they're gettable. They're definitely gettable, especially with their history of choking. So I found myself watching the Mexico game, and number one, I really wanted to see the Mexico-England game, because that would be just so good. Ecuador, England, whatever. Mexico-England in Mexico is going to be an absolute barn burner. So I wanted to see that, but I also found myself being kind of like, I instinctually hate the Mexican team. I see the jersey, I see the players, I hate their faces. They piss me off. I just hate them. But I found myself kind of rooting for them, and then was thinking to myself, so if they do win and they play England, who do I want to root for? Because I got to be honest, I don't have strong feelings about the English team. I think Harry Kane is incredible. But obviously I have strong feelings about Europe, about England. And Mexico's closer to home. There's the expanding hemispheric consolidation of the American empire here has me like, am I going to root for Mexico against England? I might very well be rooting for Mexico against England. I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of don't like that I have that instinct, and yet there's something beyond just the teams and the competition and the sports and all of that. There's something about this is our hemisphere. These are our trashy retards south of the border. You know, this is they're trashy retards, but they're ours. Go home. Go home crying. This is our hemisphere. We control things here. Even our provincial our provincial neighbors to the south, they're still ours. This is our territory. We're the ones responsible for protecting and maintaining it and paying for it and all of that. Sure, whatever. Like, yeah, we are. Just got to accept it. England, you don't belong. Get out of here. You may have been, like, we have ancient ties, of course. And I have a lot of love for the English people, but I don't know. Yeah, do you root for your cousin or for your neighbor? Yeah. I don't know. Like I was sitting here pondering this, and this is one of the reasons why the World Cup is so great, is because it gives you an opportunity to brings these things to your attention, gives you the opportunities to think about these sorts of things. Mashing up sports with nationalism is just, I am in my happy place. Amy says they sing Wonderwall. Screw Mexico. Yeah. Yeah, Amy's got a longer history with Mexican soccer fans than I do, so there is that. But they might be brown retards, but there are brown retards. Yeah, that's basically it. It was funny when I was watching it, looking at both the players and because they're going up against Ecuador. So you have the further south Browns and then the further north Browns playing each other, and then you have all the people in the stands wearing Mexico regalia, and I was like, the Mexicans are way closer to white than the Ecuadorians. Like, some of the Ecuadorians are just straight up black. There's a black guy in Mexico, but I was actually noticing how light colored, how light skinned all of the Mexican fans and players were. Many of them were just straight up white. Like, you wouldn't know until they started speaking Spanish that they weren't just white. But back to what Tuz McGee said. There is this Latin, Hispanic, Roman component or aesthetic or vibe. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for here. To the American ethnos, where the Hispanics immediately in proximity feel more like just feel closer to home than the whites across the border. And this is obviously, I'm sure there's plenty of people who would say I'm a shit lib for it, but I don't know. I think I'm just living in reality. Now, speaking of neighbors and competition against neighbors. Oh, wait. No, I got this out of order. Hold on. Oh, yeah, I'll get to that later. We're going to have a thing about Canada. I have a couple of these other things I was going to play first.
You want to know something I don't understand after moving to America from Australia? Why do countries across the globe always have so much to say about the States, yet everything they fucking consume on a day-to-day basis was either invented, manufactured, or improved by America? For example, when was the last time you sat down in front of the TV and chucked on a fucking Dutch movie? I bet to guess...
TV? Pay and J! Where's Ian? Ian Rhodes, where are you at?
Fucking never. The only other shit I see on TV is from the UK. And you're not going to catch me watching Doctor Who anytime soon because I'm not fucking gay. People talk shit about America from their Apple iPhone, sitting around eating Doritos and Big Macs, watching The Sopranos on their Mac laptop, and they got a fucking Jeep in the driveway. Personally, I just think it's fucking funny as an international dude to see countries around the globe not give America the credit it deserves. But Jack, you don't understand, mate. Hamburgers are from Hamburg, Germany. Yeah. Looks like fucking shit. I get my burgers American style. I don't know about you. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm gonna sit down, enjoy the rest of my day in my Nashville backyard. Gonna smoke one of these and drink one of these, mate. God bless America, mate. And if you aren't a patriot, you're fucking gay. Peace.
Marb Reds and Bush. Guy's name is Slow Jack. I believe we've spotted one out in the wild. We found one. Cheeky says Europe would be so much better off if they had our migrants. Letting in African and Muslim rapist demons is the most suicide LOL. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, see here, Pino One says Mexico needs to be humbled. It's win-win, frankly. If England goes in and they beat Mexico in Mexico, then the Mexican fans are going to be inconsolable, and I'll get to enjoy that because ultimately I may see them as the neighbor, but that also means that we got beef. So if an outsider comes into the neighborhood and goes after the guy I've got beef with, well, I'm going to be on the side of the guy I got beef with against the outsider. But as soon as the outsider's gone, all right, we're settling our beef now. If you're not American, you're gay. So true. So true. Only facts spoken here. Going against a player with this mentality is insane. This is a video about, like, I don't know, sports mentality, but I don't know. I don't think I need to handhold you guys through this lesson.
Do I want to do this? No. I don't. Will I do it? Yeah. Am I doing it? Yeah. Because why not? It's good for my body. It's good for my mind. I feel I'm tired, but then I tell my body I'm not tired. Then I think it's a psychological thing that's telling yourself, okay, I'm not so tired. It's okay. We keep going. If you tell yourself you're tired, you're going to be tired. If you tell yourself, I'm not that tired, it's okay. You're not that tired. Simple as that. So it's also a really psychological thing because our bodies can handle so much more than we think. Do I want to do this? No.
It's a psychological thing. This is a rant that I used to go on regularly when I used to run a lot. Running, like I do a lot of like long distance sort of. I just go out and run 10 miles. Just when I was feeling grouchy about something, I'd be like, fuck it, I'm just going to go run until I can't anymore. And I realized in the course of doing all that, if you sit there and you run for an hour and a half without stopping, your brain has time to go through a lot of things. You realize just how much it is psychological. It's entirely psychological. Your body is capable of things you can't even fathom. It's your brain that holds it back because your brain has a role to keep your body from damaging itself. But sometimes that governor is working a little too hard. Sometimes that governor needs to be tuned. And so you overcome your mind so that your mind can actually reassess what your body is actually capable of. But this isn't just true for physical exercise. This isn't just true for feats of strength or feats of endurance. Actually, those things are about training your mind for the things that are even more difficult, which aren't actually the physical feats. This is like why the meme exists, that you don't need to go to therapy, you just need to go to the gym. You just need to, your brain will be set right by realigning itself with your body and accurately being able to relate to the surroundings and perceive your relationship to your surroundings. And then you can, after honing that physically, then you can deploy that same skill spiritually or mentally or psychologically. It's entirely psychological. This is why despair and blackpilling is such a sin. when you despair and you black pill and you try to demoralize people around you, you're not just lying to them. You're trying to tempt them. You're trying to seduce them into withdrawing from the world around them, into living out of alignment with reality. Demoralizing them. You're removing the moral character, the thing that comprises them. You're fraying their moral fibers. It's psychological. If you feel demoralized, you are subjecting yourself to something else. You are making yourself subservient to another power. And you are consciously forfeiting your own agency in doing that. Holland is just such a fucking beast. And look at this. Look how well he assimilates. I wonder why that is. It's crazy to me that people will like suggest that soccer players are like lesser athletes or something. If you think soccer players are lesser athletes, it's just, you could just be ignorant if you want. It's a completely different sort of skill. Most American like football, basketball, hockey, baseball players, the majority of them would not be able to play soccer if they wanted to because they are not physically capable of it. It's a different sort of physical. But then they may not be mentally capable of it too, because in soccer, the manager actually doesn't do a whole lot. The clock doesn't stop. You don't get timeouts to go like reassess and like change your tactics or like view what the defense is doing and then try to counter it. That has to be done in real time by the players on the pitch. So they have to be both incredibly physically tuned and incredibly mentally tuned. It's not just memorize a playbook and then someone tells you run this play and you go run that play. You see guys like Tom Brady with like Wes Welker and Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski. And one of the things that made them so good was their ability to be in sync and to, in real time, be able to make side adjustments as they're running as the guy goes out and runs a route. He sees defender is here, defender is moving this way. I know that means all these other players are doing this sort of thing. And so I can either go this way or I can go this way. And if I go this way, I need to know that the quarterback saw the same thing I did, and because he's going to have to throw the ball before I even turn around. That dynamic is at play with all 11 players on the pitch, at all times, while they're sprinting and while they need to be prepared to turn around and sprint the other direction. You have to be able to read the flow of the game and be able to predict what's going to happen, like 4 or 5 passes before it's actually going to happen, which means tracking all the different players on the pitch, knowing their responsibilities, knowing their individual tendencies, their strengths and weaknesses, knowing how they're set up, what the tendencies are for within the tactics of the team, and knowing if this guy does this guy's going to do this, which means this guy's going to do this, which means this guy's going to do this, and this guy's going to do this. And being able to see that, plot it out in your head, track it, and then adjust for it as it changes in real time, without a chance to like stop and reassess, with the exception of halftime and now hydration breaks. But when you stand on a soccer field, you kind of start to get it. That's the other thing, is that people have no idea just how big a soccer field is. So it looks like the game is moving slower than it actually is. But if you're actually on the field, this is why it's great having the ref cams, because you actually see how quickly the game is moving there on the field, and this incredibly narrow margins that they have to play through, the timing and the trajectories and all this sort of thing, being able to map that out and track it at different levels all at the same time. It's an extraordinary athletic feat to be good at soccer. And you see guys like this that are, the dude is the size of DK Metcalf. He's bigger than DK Metcalf. He's the size of Randy Moss. Soccer players are incredibly, incredibly athletic. And most other sports would not be able to do it because it's essentially like going out and running a 10K each time you play. Imagine going out and running a 10K, but you're not just jogging straight. It's like a 10K comprised of wind sprints with periodic mosh pitting, kind of. So like you go in a mosh pit, you go do that in the middle of running wind sprints for the length or the duration of a 10K. Okay, so speaking of our neighbors, this guy here wants to explain Canada Day to Americans. Please do tip your streamer, folks. We're going to get through a few of these things, and then I've got some deportations updates. We're going to talk about birthright citizenship a little bit. That was the thing I was going to say earlier. Is it's funny that you have the Supreme Court decision, and then you have an anchor baby who is carrying the United States force. See, we still win. Even when shit works against us, we still use that to our advantage, and we still win. So we got some of the reactions to the birthright citizenship thing, other things that that are possible paths forward. And then I've got this interview, J.D. Vance and Michael Knowles, which is just incredible. Just incredible. So if we're making good progress on the tip goal here, then I'll make sure I do the J.D. Vance stream as well. All right, so explaining Canada Day to Americans.
Hey, neighbor. Oh, hi, America. What's with the decorations? It's Canada Day. We're having a little get-together. Canada Day? Yeah,
Decorations? What does it mean when you do decorations? We here in America, we don't know what decorations are. We don't know how to do Why you do decoration?
Like July 4th for you guys. Yeah, but we do July 4th because we got lots of stuff to celebrate. We got Eagles and freedom and KFC. What do you have to celebrate?
Did
freedom!
You just say, what do we have to celebrate?
Yeah,
it's
universal health care. So if you break your leg, you can still afford a snack while you wait in the ER. The metric system. But to be fair, everybody else has that except you.
That's why we're good.
Leave, because we think if a woman carries around another human for 9 months, she might need some time off. Poutine. French
also
fries,
gay.
gravy, cheese curds. If angels owned food trucks, they'd make poutine. Bagged milk. It's more environmentally friendly. Plus, it feels like you're holding a cold, wet baby.
Suck on some
and
plastic.
Beer. Actual beer. Not yellow water. Beer. And lots of it. Butter tarts. If you put sex and gold into a blender, you get a butter tart. Of course, hockey. We did it first, we still do it best. But American teams win the Stanley Cup. American teams, Canadian players. Oh, and to your
That's
KFC
an own
point,
against you, by
Colonel
the way.
Sanders lived in Canada, so we made it even better.
We do the sport better than you to the degree that your people come here to compete in the sport and then proceed to beat you at it.
By pronouncing it KFC. It's true. He lived in Canada from 1965 to 1980. Yeah, that is weird, but it's true. But you know what we don't have?
Mr. President, get the B2s.
What?
I'm mad.
Pennies, because they're stupid pocket weights. Y'all do have some stuff to celebrate, I guess. Yeah. Sorry.
The only thing they have to celebrate is the fact that they are blessed to share a border with the United States. And someone with European flag says Canada was very disproportionately settled by Scots, which is very visible in the very Celt-lib way they arranged their nationalism. Not around their own qualities, but rather around seething about their more relevant English-speaking southern neighbor. Just award him the internet points for today. So true. So incredibly true. American Scots are so much better than Scots or Canadian Scots. Because America just does everything better. We even do Scots better. Deal with it. Now, speaking of Brits, here's this guy. This guy, I believe, merits honorary citizenship. We're going to substantially restrict citizenship so that in exceptional cases, we can give it away honorarily. Now, there's part of this that may end up getting the... I'm going to let it play for those who are watching live, but there's the possibility that this will get yoinked. So later on, if you want to go hear the national anthem played at the game yesterday, then you can go find that somewhere else.
Europeans are going to America and they're amazed by everything, but they're missing out on the main thing, the very thing you should be taking notice of the most out of everything. It's the patriotism, how much they love their country, how proud they are to be themselves. Yes, everything's big. The country's massive and beautiful. The food's got so much flavor, and you've been lied to by the media for years. The people are actually nice to you. Would you believe it? An armed society is a polite society.
So true.
We're going to watch the American national anthem at the World Cup. British people and European people are going over to America and they are absolutely loving it. The only negative thing I've heard is that their football chants, soccer, are rubbish. I'm going to tell you how they've got us beat on that one as well. Their national anthem. Pay close attention. The English national anthem represents loyalty to the monarch. One person out of multiple countries. The American anthem symbolizes national unity, perseverance, and freedom. And it's not just for this event. They do this all year round, every day. So when you come home from America...
Living Dead says, imagine having the best thing you ever did as a nation was to expel the French, but then you missed out on Cajun food as a result, and they didn't actually expel the French! They still have French on everything in Canada.
And you take down your flag, remember, they're not taking down theirs. Ain't nothing changing just because the World Cup's finished. Look at the size of the stadium. Hey, as always, please forgive me if I do not talk through somebody's national anthem. Let's get some inspiration.
Now we're going to do this right. Ramparts watch, streams gallant, rockets glaring. So true, Life Support Unplugged.
Let's go.
That was Dan and Shay, by the way, that sang that.
Yo, this is what I'm talking about. Everybody on their feet. They've all got the hand on the heart. They've got the pride and the feeling it. They're feeling the emotion. This is not just for the World Cup. This is a regular occurrence. This is the difference. Hear me right now. Hear me, right? There's going to be English people. I'm going to review the England World Cup on my other channel, right? But watching this video right now, I can guarantee you people that's watching this video will have had tears down their face listening to that. They would have been proud. They have pulled over the side of the road if they were listening to it, just so they could take off their hat or put their hand on their heart. There's a difference. Okay, people feel these words because it represents the people. It represents something to them. When was the last time you seen people cry at God Save the King? But if you put it into Google, you can see millions of search results of people crying on a regular basis when they hear this because it's beautiful. It represents them and who they are, no matter who's in charge, no matter who's leading their country. This is massive. And
Lord Breezy says America turns the Brit into an emotional Frenchie. Living Dead says it's so good it choked up a limey. Yes! Theodore Dragonsbane says our anthem is about how we blew shit up and won our freedom. We mog everyone! Colin Rush says Anthems isn't copywritten. This is from the broadcast, though, from the actual FIFA broadcast. So I'm guessing that me playing that is probably going to get it yoinked later on. So you guys can go watch it on your own separately if that does happen. Mrs. Kingfield says, and you'll hear it at any random American sporting event, just like that. Yes. And then the flyovers. You can't forget the flyovers.
And beautiful. It's bigger than any World Cup. And this is the inspiration that I need Europeans to take back home, because this is not just for the World Cup. This is who they are. And this is the exact thing that I want to see the inspiration being taken from.
I told you guys this was going to happen too. This guy here isn't at the World Cup, but he's telling them, you got to come back and you got to do this. There's much to learn from America.
Look at the size of it. I've never seen a stadium that big.
That's just one of 100 that we have in the country.
Now, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. I can guarantee that all of us want to feel that level of pride in our own country. And why can't we? Why can't we? It's a beautiful thing. The pursuit of happiness is an American saying, okay? And I do believe that that phrase and that saying needs to be understood by the world a lot more. Surely we all get one chance at life, no matter who we are. Surely we all deserve happiness. We should live our life in the pursuit of happiness. And within that, you should be proud of who you are and where you're from. Acceptance of who you are. Acceptance of your country and your fellow people around you coming together as one. I don't know, man. I've seen so many people reacting to all sorts of things, like the food and how big the country is and look how far they travel and everything. But what I'm so desperate for is the people of my country to come back and look around when all the flags come down and you're not even allowed to fly your own flag and think, wait, it doesn't have to be like this.
Yes.
We actually could have something different. Anyway,
so true, Limey.
The video thing now. I don't want to carry this on too long. I am eternally grateful for all of the amazing comments. I will continue to reply to as many comments as I can, or at least read it and I put a like on it every single day. I reply.
A bunch of young Zoomer Euros are about to apply for American universities. Well, speaking of Europe, here we have one of our great balds, Peter St. Onge. This is what he has to say. Europe's deindustrialization is accelerating.
Is throwing away its industrial base, with Volkswagen announcing 100,000 layoffs on top of the 50,000 it's already cut. Now, the rule of thumb in car manufacturing is multiplied by 5 for supplier jobs, so that's 500,000 jobs. Now multiplied by population, and in U.S. terms, it is equivalent to 2 million manufacturing jobs. I mean, Europe is well on its way to becoming an open-air museum for Chinese and American tourists. Last week, dying German car maker...
I love how he gets his little zingers in there. Just this professorial-looking guy, his glasses, his beard, his shiny bald head, and then he just goes, just the dagger, just right up there, right underneath the ribs.
Volkswagen, which also owns Audi, Porsche, Bentley, and Lamborghini, announced it's laying off 15% of its workforce. After profits plunged by 3/4 to the point Volkswagen is making 3 pennies on the dollar, which is interesting because that's below their cost of capital, as in Volkswagen's main business is lighting money on fire. This will drag their shares down 75% since pre-COVID, almost 90% since their peak. The CEO is blaming Trump's tariffs, which gobbled up 1/3 of profits, Chinese competition, which gobbled up their sweetheart margins in China, and above all, Europe's brutal production climate with energy prices and taxes twice U.S. rates, and an empire of red tape that, going by compliance hours, is up to 3 times more than the already crippling regulation in the U.S. In short, it is almost impossible to build anything in Europe. Even when you've already got the factory, you would be crazy to build a new factory in Europe. The problem is, it's much bigger than Volkswagen. Every major German car maker and most of the rest of its industrial base, so chemicals, steel, pharma, are slashing capacity and moving jobs. Parts maker Bosch already announced 22,000 cuts. ZF and Continental threw in another 20. Krupp Steel is down 11. Delivery company DHL is laying off 8,000. Bayer 13.5. Put it together, and Germany's lost 638,000 manufacturing jobs since COVID, now running over 127,000 a year, which is 500,000 in U.S. population terms. Worse is
500,000 a year in U.S. population terms. Yes, when we want to understand your economic numbers, we have to do United States adjustments just to be able to understand them, because your countries are so frickin' small.
It's only the beginning, because a bevy of major German manufacturers are setting up bases in America, a landing pad for future jobs. Mercedes and BMW announced $9 billion in South.
What's that? Other countries are deindustrializing, and America is drawing in all of that capital here? Productive capital that leads to hiring booms that causes wage growth? You're telling me that's happening? I was told this is impossible.
South Carolina and Alabama, rule of thumb is 1 million per job, so that's 9,000 manufacturing jobs. Power giant RWE and pharma giant Boehringer are each pitching another $20 billion. Siemens, Bayer, Merck are all plowing billions into American production. So you've got at least 50,000 jobs already in the pipeline, and it is accelerating. So SX brought to you by the Bitcoin Way. If Japan is what not to do on debt, Europe is what not to do on growth. In the past 20 years, Germany's grown half the rate of the U.S. In fact, it's been in technical recession 3 out of the past 7 years. Take-home pay in Germany, formerly the jewel of Europe, is now a fifth below the state of West Virginia. So how to fix it? Economically, it's simple.
What?
Recession 3 out of the past 7 years. Take-home pay in Germany, formerly the jewel of Europe, is now a fifth below the state of West Virginia.
A fifth below the state of West Virginia. How do you live in a world where data like this exists and somehow believe that the United States is like a desolate, collapsing, late-stage empire? Like, how do you possibly deceive yourself to that extent?
So how to fix it? Economically, it's simple. Slash red tape, slash taxes and spending, slash the bureaucracy that currently employs 1 in 3 Germans, and build, baby, build some coal plants and nukes. Alas, politically, it is impossible, because Germany is trapped in a grand coalition of left and right in order to shut out the anti-immigrant AfD, the so-called cordon sanitaire, basically a government run by Bernie Sanders and Mitt Romney. That means even though the current leader is conservative on paper, he cannot pass the reforms it would take to pull Germany out of its debt spiral. All while Donald Trump gleefully poaches Europe's crown jewels to Alabama. Follow for daily videos. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.
I feel for my European brothers. It's such a crime what's happening to you. And don't worry. America has proven that we will step in and we will rescue Germany. We will rescue the other European nations. Anytime, this is the past like 3 centuries. Europeans have one of their, every other decade big kerfuffle, and the United States is forced to step in, bail them out. It's going to happen again. The question is it going to be done in a productive manner? And that is what we have the great medical professional known as Donald J. Trump, MD. That's what he's for.
Have you or someone you know been diagnosed with TDS? The symptoms can be relentless. Fortunately, I'm Dr. Trump, and I have a treatment plan. Let's hear what some of my patients have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Trump.
I have been suffering for over a decade, and after listening to Dr. Trump, I can see some results.
Man, I've been suffering for years. I really didn't believe that was help out there. That was when I came across this video on TV.
I really thought I was a lost cause. This was gonna affect me for the rest of my life. But after using the treatment plan, I can see a difference.
I really wasn't sure I could help some of these people. They were so far gone, I wasn't really sure.
I had no idea how much this was affecting my life. My work is slowed down. I'm hardly recognizable anymore. I just needed help.
I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Constantly angry.
The music.
I made everyone miserable around me.
Thank you for
I feel like I've
trading.
aged 20 years in the last 2 years.
You look like it too.
I've been so concerned. I was really starting to worry about my future.
The treatment is simple. Turn off. Fake news. Say your prayers, and if you ever feel anxious, just have a Diet Coke like me, and you're going to see a remarkable difference in your life.
So true! Have you drank your Diet Coke for the day yet, Anon? I don't have Diet, but I got the regular thing. I'll still drink that garbage. Thank you, Mr. Trump. And of course, Patriot spotted living dead with exquisite memeing. Look at this. Just look at it. The entire world. He's here for you. All you need is a medical Diet Coke every day. And you too can experience the glory of Trump's golden age. Dr. Don, the Diet Coke
Have you
doc.
or some...
All right, look at this. A Cuban friend of liberal socialist Hassan Piker has been detained alongside his family and will be deported. Remember he went and shot his mouth off on his stream? And then Neville Singham has a DOJ investigation opened in him, and one of his buddies gets detained and is going to be deported along his whole family. And then ICE announces 39 Wisconsin arrests in one of the state's largest immigration enforcement sweeps. Federal agents carried out a rare public enforcement operation across the state while immigrant advocates reported widespread fear. Meanwhile, Milwaukee officials questioned ICE's use of city and county property. An appeal to pragmatism says ICE casually conducted one of the largest immigration enforcement operations in Wisconsin with no protests or uproar. This was shortly around the time that ICE partners produced dozens of arrests in Virginia. But wait a second. Wait a second. My For You page didn't show a bunch of riots and protests happening to tell me that the administration is doing something. So how could they actually be doing something? It can't be true. My For You page never lies. New York Times confirms that ICE has doubled its daily arrest rate with a fraction of the protests and none of the drama, outpacing the record set by Kristi Noem. Immigration enforcement has been arresting over 2,000 migrants a day, or more considering other work in the interior under Mullen. Immigrant arrests surged to 10,000 in 5 days as ICE clamps down. The agency has doubled its daily arrest numbers without the fanfare of last year's large urban operations, sowing fear in immigrant communities. In recent days, ICE officers have launched an intense push to ramp up arrests. Arrests topped out on Saturday when authorities detained over 2,400 people, according to documents obtained by the Times. The detention population inside ICE facilities has jumped nearly 4,000 to more than 63,000 in the agency's custody as of Tuesday, according to internal documents. Yes, vindicated yet again. So true, Slutty Milk. Patrick Casey, host of the podcast Restoring Order with Patrick Casey, says if you read right-wing Twitter, people will tell you that deportations aren't happening, either because they're misinformed or have ulterior motives. But if you read the New York Times, you'll learn that the deportation rate is actually going up. Mark Wayne Mullen says that DHS is deporting over 3,200 people a day. Aaron Rupar is very upset about this.
Seeing our arrest numbers come up, we're seeing our deportation numbers continue to increase. Right now, we're deporting on average over 3,000 individuals. Actually, the average has been for several weeks now, over 3,200 individuals a day. 70% of those individuals we're deporting have outstanding criminal charges on them, or they've already been charged with a felony. 70% of those individuals.
So 70% have committed a felony, have outstanding charges against them. So you're telling me that 30% of people being deported don't have any criminal charges. They haven't committed a felony. And yet they're still being deported? How is this possible? My favorite podcaster told me that it's not happening.
70% of the individuals that Our men and women throughout DHS arrest, be it ICE, CBP, or one of our other components, 70% of those individuals have pending felony charges or are current felons that shouldn't be on our streets. So when we go after the worst of the worst, which is exactly what we're doing, we're saving lives. Seeing our arrest numbers.
Now, immediately after the release of the birthright citizenship decision from the Supreme Court, the DOJ posted a memorandum for DOJ employees on prosecution of fraudulent birth tourism schemes from Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald. The benefits of the United States citizenship require little explanation. Unlike most countries in the world, the United States extends this extraordinary privilege to almost anyone born within its borders and territories. Regrettably, the American system is exploited each year by thousands of foreigners who travel to the U.S. under false pretenses to give birth and secure citizenship for their child. The criminal laws of the United States already prohibit conduct inherent to many of these so-called birth tourism schemes. For example, many such schemes start with a false visa application, with lies about the purpose or duration of one's travel to the United States in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1546. Some recent examples crystallize these schemes. In 2024, a husband and wife, Michael, just some chink names, Jing Dong, were each sentenced to 41 months imprisonment for operating a birth tourism scheme with a business named USA Happy Baby Inc. that charged Chinese clients tens of thousands of dollars to help them give birth in the U.S. Liu and Dong assisted customers with obtaining fraudulent visas to enter the U.S. and provided customs entry guidance, housing, and transportation in the U.S. As part of the scheme, Liu and Dong coached their customers on how to hide their pregnancies from immigration authorities. And then there's another one here. People who are committing visa violations or committing crimes to get into the country. Or to facilitate birth tourism. As these examples make clear, birth tourism schemes exploit our immigration system and violate criminal law. The DOJ will investigate and hold accountable those who engage in this unlawful conduct, as well as those who solicit and sell these criminal services to others. I am directing all U.S. attorneys and the criminal division to work with the DHS to prioritize the investigation and prosecution of birth tourism schemes. While many of these cases are prosecuted as visa fraud under 18 U.S.C. Section 1546, is that section or statute? 1546. Prosecutors should consider whether other federal statutes are violated as part of such schemes, including but not limited to wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering and conspiracy to commit money laundering, unlawful use of means of identification, aggravated identity theft, or conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud. The Executive Office for U.S. Attorneys will provide U.S. Attorneys' offices additional information to identify these matters and cases. In case view, and will also identify resources to assist with these investigations and prosecutions. The DOJ will zealously protect the sanctity of U.S. citizenship by investigating and prosecuting those who fraudulently exploit our immigration system. Together, we will bring illegal birth tourism to an end and those responsible to justice. Now, obviously, the actual birth tourism thing, the birthright citizenship thing, can only be changed statutorily by Congress. That doesn't mean that there aren't a multitude of things that the executive branch can do to mitigate the extent to which it happens. So now they're going to make this a priority. So what has changed? What has changed is not birthright citizenship. That is staying the same way that it's been for 150 years. But now, all of these means that people were using to game the birthright citizenship phenomenon are being clamped down on. That's what's changed. So it's become more difficult to exploit the birthright citizenship model. Do you see how we're actually moving in the right direction? Clearly, it would be great to have 9 super base Supreme Court justices who just slap it down. Yes, obviously that would be ideal. We don't live in the ideal world, so let's move on. What has actually changed on the ground? What has changed on the ground is it's getting more and more difficult to exploit birthright citizenship, to take advantage of it. There's more than one way to skin this cat. More on that in a moment, but Matt Forney said, retards. It's over. Trump the raped Jew slave is a failure. Birthright citizenship means all hope is lost. Submit your dicks for immediate removal. And then there's the reality. And this guy says the retard right is now trying to turn their attention over to Secretary Mullen, despite the fact that the rate of deportations have increased under him. The retards will never get over their addiction to losing. So pre One Big Beautiful Bill, there were 700 daily deportations. Whoops. Under Kristi Noem, there were 1,400. Under Mark Wayne Mullen, there are 2,400 daily deportations. And that number, like, look at this trajectory. More money, more hiring, more agents being released into the field. How high can this number get? Well, I guess we're going to find out. Matt Forney says, I'm convinced the retard right lacks object permanence, a skill that infants pick up. Mark Wayne Mullen ended the self-defeating stunts that Kristi Noem and Greg Bavino were obsessed with and has been more efficiently deporting people as a result. They don't notice or care. This is an IQ test. Do you want the thing that looks cool and flashy but is less effective? Or do you want the thing that you don't notice that is more effective? Do you actually care about deportations? Or do you just care about being mad that things aren't being done exactly the way you would have conceived it of in your little pea brain? This guy says Bavino is a dick sucker, end of story. And Bavino hops in the replies and says, the liberals and rhinos are out in force tonight. Must have struck a nerve, which means we're on the right track. Now we'll get a little bit more about this in just a moment. Colin Ross says to check Ko-Fi. Why are these not even showing up here? Okay. So, we've had 2 that have come through that I didn't notice. Apologies. It was working and then just inexplicably decided to not work. $20 from Politically Catholic. He said, I played center defense throughout high school and I used to run cross country to prepare for the incredible amount of distance running that soccer involves. It was a tremendous advantage to still have my breath in the second half. Yeah, there you go. Running cross country to get yourself in the physical condition necessary to actually play soccer. Thank you for the $20, sir. And then Column Rosh. Here, actually, I have one of these. Hold on. I can at least give you this. He says, Mullen's showing how men are better at everything. Feminists are going to cry about the deportation gap next. The deportation gap. Thank you, guys. So, here, let me do this real quick. Please do. It should be working now that I turned it back on again. Let me just double check, make sure that it is still connected. It is still connected. So, please do go to tips.kingpill.com. Support your streamer. Get us at least in the vicinity of the goal, so that we can watch the JD Vance interview later on. So we got a kind of a picture that is developing here about what the
Welcome to the suck, homos.
Thank you, Living Dead. Nevsky can now use the emotes. So, just reading your guys' comments here. Cole Bavino a dick sucker, and he goes, okay, liberal and rhino, like actual boomer shit. Yeah. Cheeky says, if you have at least middling IQ and have followed the right the last few years, you should know the levels of psyops and traitorous factions that have to be worked around and should just never speak on any breaking slop or politics at all. Let our fucking president and people cook. So true. So true. Quit falling for psyops. So the little bit of a background here on the Bavino story. Forney quote tweeted Bavino and said, you sucked at your job, which is why Trump fired you, and I know you cry yourself to sleep every night because of this. Tyrone Powers says, how much of the situation involving Bavino, Noem, and Lewandowski are you aware of, Matt? It's a whole fucking thing I could go on about. He says, story time. I'll post links in the comments. Before being promoted to Border Patrol Commander at Large, Bavino was responsible for commanding a bunch of raids in Los Angeles and Chicago, which, yeah, good job. But his promotion was more or less DC factionalism at its finest. It was Corey Lewandowski's suggestion to elevate him, where he operated outside of the traditional Border Patrol structure and reported directly to Noem. The title of Commander-at-Large of Border Patrol was Corey and Noam's way of bypassing Miller and Homan, so they could have their own public-facing character to empower them in the face of all the power plays going on at the time. For those who don't remember who Corey Lewandowski is, he's a massive fucking snake. He was in the middle of the Trump Sessions drama and softly exiled from anything of consequence in Trump world after he bungled firing Sessions. He's been trying to claw as much power as he can since getting booted. He cozied himself up to Noam in 2025 so he could find someone to parasitically climb to the top with. Bovino was elected by Noam on a whim, and he had a spot created just for himself, which already had internal opposition at the time. He effectively removed himself from the Border Patrol power structure entirely and was let free to do whatever he wanted. He didn't actually run Border Patrol like a lot of people think he did. Lewandowski was. From an NBC article that he posted a link in the comment. The exchange also aligned Bovino with the top aide to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Corey... The exchange also aligned Bovino with the top aide to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski. After Minneapolis, Noem and Lewandowski are now taking a back seat to border czar Tom Homan and CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott, who have publicly advocated for a targeted approach. Another quote, Mr. Lyons said he was in charge, and I corrected him saying, I report to Corey Lewandowski, Bovino said in the email. Lewandowski has been an unpaid special government employee since last February. Now, obviously, something coming from NBC, you shouldn't just believe it just because you're reading it or because it maybe kind of aligns with priors, but this here, Bovino, being quoted directly saying he reports to Corey Lewandowski, who was an unpaid special government employee, and it's pretty obvious that there was a power struggle going on between Miller and Homan on one side and Noam and Lewandowski on the other side. These things it's not just sourced to a couple of articles. It seems pretty clear this is something that was happening. From a New York Times article, Mr. Lewandowski helped elevate Gregory Bovino, a mid-level U.S. Border Patrol leader, to a senior position commanding militarized deportation raids across the United States, 3 people familiar with Mr. Lewandowski's actions said. He was among the top officials alongside Ms. Noem involved in the process of approving government contracts, according to interviews and documents reviewed by the Times. He berated ICE leaders when their officers failed to meet daily arrest quotas set by the White House, flashing a quick temper that left officials across the department afraid that any perceived slight could cost them their jobs, according to people familiar with the episodes. Perhaps there were ICE leaders who needed to be berated. I suppose it depends on what the direction of that berating was. That I don't necessarily see as a downside with him. But he says, to give y'all a timeline, Noam and Lewandowski create a position with no power for Bovino within DHS. This position conveniently allows them to ignore Homan, Miller, and enforcement removal operations. Trump is unaware of this entirely until Bovino shows up and someone is shot and dies in the Battle of Minneapolis, escalating the situation further. I'm not going to endorse counter-signaling of Orrin McIntyre. He's a good dude. Trump removes him once the situation is de-escalated and pending legal cases are dropped by Minneapolis and Chicago. Noam is removed from DHS a month after all this happens. Plus, Nancy Mace has been pushing for a formal investigation into his conduct for his time while Noam was already embroiled in problems with DHS, made worse after the news about her husband came to light. TLDR, Bovino was a powerless figurehead, and the snake known as Corey Lewandowski was abusing his role to undermine Trump and Miller's wishes. And then the articles are linked here below. Carradwin says, and Homan is still on the job, and Bovino is just some Twitter poster now. So tell me again how good or necessary Bovino was to the job. Now, I obviously, I don't like having to accept that Bovino is a clown, but he's acting like one. If the entire operation gets more efficient and more effective once you are removed from your position, then I don't really care necessarily how you got into it. That's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, there was power struggles going on and whatever. But then to go on the internet and try to continue playing this role to undermine the president and make people think that things aren't getting better. Now, I don't care how based you looked. I don't care how much maybe in the abstract we might agree that we need to get lots of people removed from the country. Sure, yeah. When you were involved in removing people from the country, it didn't happen as effectively as after you were removed. And now you're mad that it's happening more effectively? You're lying to people that it isn't? No, you got to go, bro. So Ricciardella, is that how you pronounce it? Will Ricciardella says today's birthright citizenship decision turned on one fatal move. The majority collapsed political jurisdiction into territorial jurisdiction. That's it in a nutshell. Everyone inside the U.S. is subject to our laws. Illegal aliens, tourists, visa overstays, foreign criminals, all of them. That is territorial jurisdiction. But the citizenship clause did not say within the jurisdiction. It says subject to the jurisdiction. Equal protection protects persons within the jurisdiction. Citizenship asks who is subject to the jurisdiction. Protection is not membership. The dissents understood that distinction. The citizenship clause was about political belonging, allegiance, jurisdiction, and membership in the American people, not mere physical presence. The majority effectively read the two phrases as one. Now then, the three lib women, but the three most lib women, we'll say that. Doesn't surprise me at all that they would intentionally conflate these things, but you're not going to tell me that John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett don't understand this distinction. They were not deciding on this on the basis of some legal rationale. No, both of them are heavily implicated in this personally, given their own choices of buying foreign children. And they were intentionally reading political preferences into it. A clause about who belongs in the political community became a rule about who happens to be standing here. Not because Congress passed that rule, not because the text clearly commands it, but because the court read the harder phrase as if it said the easier one. An institutional habit has now become law. Now, a reason you shouldn't despair about the birthright citizenship ruling. Prior to today, almost all of the legal academy and most practicing attorneys claimed the admin's position was absurd and were preparing for a 9-0 ruling in favor of a constitutional right to citizenship to persons born here. Instead, 4 SCOTUS justices wrote that there is no constitutional right to birthright citizenship. In the next few years, we'll get to 5. In the meantime, Kavanaugh explains how Congress can unmake birthright citizenship. The dissenters documented the historical inaccuracy and intellectual dishonesty of the majority's opinion. As Justice Thomas wrote, the opinion, quote, will not stand the test of time. What will be remembered is the shameful and craven behavior of Justices Roberts and Barrett. They are on the wrong side of history. Today was only possible because of President Trump's leadership and the activism and organization of the voters that put him in office. It was unimaginable 10 years ago that an administration would even challenge birthright citizenship, much less that 4 justices would be open to ending it. Keep pushing and keep organizing. We are going to win. Historically illiterate, temperamentally untrustworthy people are going to try to frame it to you otherwise. But J.D. Vance, shockingly, has exactly the right opinion.
What we're going to have to do is just continue to enforce the border, Laura. This was a very disappointing ruling from the Supreme Court. Of course, we respect it, but we also think that it was a major mistake, as Justices Alito and Thomas pointed out. You know, one of the things that might invite, Laura, is people to come here quite literally on a vacation, give birth, and then all of a sudden the child and their family have the full benefits of American citizenship. It's just a preposterous ruling, and the absurdity of that outcome suggests why the Supreme Court should have went the other way. Now, I know a lot of conservatives, Laura, certainly the people that I'm talking to, that you're talking to, are extremely disappointed in this. I do actually think there's a really big silver lining here, and that's the simple fact that a lot of legal experts expected this case to go the wrong direction by 7-2 or even 8-1. The fact that this case was a 5-4 decision effectively means that the concept of birthright citizenship, which is an absurdity to the 14th Amendment, that concept is hanging by a thread. And so what I take from that is, yes, we've got to fix the immigration system even more. We have to be even more aware of who's coming into our country to make sure that they're not benefiting from this atrocious Supreme Court ruling. But it also means that we have to keep fighting, Laura, because we actually have an opportunity to reverse this decision, just as we've reversed so many bad decisions throughout the generations.
Roger Severin.
So true. Forney says Vance is right. Everyone thought this was going to be a 9-0 decision. The fact that it was a 5-4 decision means birthright citizenship is ultimately doomed. And it's really just a question of if you have the if you have the character, the discipline to recognize that we're playing the long game here. Living Dead says the more EOs there are, the more potential for an expansion of the executive, and the presidential rule particularly, as a consequence, there will be. Yes. Like pickup artists playing the numbers, but not fucking annoying and stupid. Yeah, right. Here is Tom Homan's response to the birthright citizenship. And please do go to tips.kingpill.com. I'm going to be very disappointed if we cannot... Oh my God! What timing!
I'll take an Heil Miller if no Thielbucks. The ultimate strategy beat birthright citizenship has always been for our guys to outbreed the left, who are sterile and can only steal our kids from us. People who can't reproduce have no say in the future of the nation or the church.
So true! Politically Catholic, sir. I actually owe you something. Eastwood came over to me yesterday, walked up to me, and climbed up next to me and whispered in my ear. He said, Daddy, can you tell your friend who got me the Lego moon base? Tell him again that I'm really happy about it and I love it so much. So there you go. Thank you, sir, for the $200. Heil Miller!
Never listen to a panican.
And the first thing I saw the decision, which I don't agree with, is okay, now we step up enforcement. We step up more enforcement. Even though we're doing record amounts of enforcement now, we need to do more. And not only that, we need to, really buckle down on birth tourism. We have many investigations on birth tourism, but we need to quadruple down on that. And look, I agree with Judge Alito. First of all, I've been doing this since 1984. That's when I started in Border Patrol. This birthright citizenship has always been a major driver for illegal immigration. During the Biden administration, the Yuma Hospital, the El Paso Hospital, 100% maternity beds were illegal aliens. That's not a coincidence. That's not by accident. But it's always been a driver for illegal immigration. But more importantly, it's a national security issue. Because of birth tours investigation I'm aware of, you got nationals from China and Russia coming here by the thousands, having a baby and leaving. Now, so we have U.S. citizens by the thousands and just continued by the millions living in countries that I think are adversaries to us that can come here and have an impact on how this country is run. So it's a national security issue, a huge proportion that we need to address. And I hope Congress does it.
So true, Gigagrug. One of the most hardy and robust patriots. Indeed. I love my mush-mouth border czar. Tom Homan is one of our greatest patriots. And anyone who tries to talk shit about him or stand in the way of his desire to die deporting people can catch these hands. Our government need to clamp down on these commies. Yes! Clamp down on the commies. Notice from the DOJ, from J.D. Vance.
Welcome to the suck, homos.
Thank you, Atreides. From Tom Homan, every single one of these people came out immediately and said, time to clamp down even more. What's that? You're not going to let us just change this with the stroke of a pen? All right. Then we're going to dial this up and we're going to start restricting it even further. And of course, I couldn't not play this one.
Being on U.S. soil does not make you a citizen or qualified to carry on or capable of executing the inheritance of this country. We have people from all over the world, from third world nations that on their own would have never invented the wheel, let alone modern technology, let alone medicine, let alone air travel. And they can just come into the country, have a baby at a hospital, paid for by you and me, and then that baby's automatically a citizen. That baby can sit on a jury when he turns 18 and sit in judgment of you, and sit in judgment of me, and sit in judgment of our loved ones, can decide who our mayors are, our governors are, our presidents are. Citizenship means nothing if it is open to everyone. Being on U.S. soil.
The Living Dead says Stephen Miller in a cowboy hat quoting Teddy Roosevelt emote. Slutty Milk says, while the Panikins give up, the admin goes into overdrive on the issue. So true. Are you just going to give up, Anon? Stephen Miller's not giving up. J.D. Vance isn't giving up. Donald Trump isn't giving up. The Gigagrog isn't giving up. None of them are giving up. But you fucking flaming faggots. You little internet fairies. You're going to give up? You're going to melt down and cry and proclaim doom about your homeland? Get the fuck out of here. Get in the trebuchet. We're taking your citizenship. You don't deserve it anymore. There are also tons of ways that birthright citizenship could be neutered right now. This is Matt Forney. Make it impossible for foreigners to come here. Abolish all visas, save for short business or vacation trips. The Trump administration is already doing this by massively curtailing legal immigration. Automatically refusing entry to pregnant foreigners. Require women visa applications to testify that they are not pregnant. Inspect them at the border. If you see a baby bump, deport them. Institute a residency requirement for holding public office, serving in the military, working for the civil service, or working for defense contractors. You must have been resident in the U.S. continually for 18 to 25 years to hold any of these positions. Some countries already do this. For example, Russia requires presidential candidates to be resident in the country for 25 years. Enjoy your birthright citizenship, Ramesh and Wang. You can't do anything with it. It's a hollow Wang. It's useless. Ban dual citizens and children of non-natural born citizens from holding the aforementioned positions. If you hold a green card from another country, for example, hold on. Okay, if you hold a green card from another country, you're also banned under this provision. For example, India doesn't allow dual citizenship, but issues a visa to nationals.
Homos.
Thank you, Nevsky, who take foreign citizenship that is basically citizenship in all but name. You can create tiers of citizenship. Birthright citizenship is the lowest tier and basically gives you nothing. You need to earn your way into higher tiers as well as pass stringent security checks in order to get rights like voting, holding public office, etc. Militarizing the border, alligator-filled moats, automated gun turrets. Are you going to risk jumping the border when CBP's Palantir-powered drones will automatically turn you into torta chutney? Torta chutney. That's what we're going to feed to the the deportation detention centers. They're all going to be fed torta chutney. Do you think the Trump administration didn't already game this out? Their actions now are the product of being out of power for 4 years, thinking about where they went wrong in Trump 1.0. We've seen massive wins on trade and immigration in the courts. Legal immigration has dropped so precipitously that we now have net negative migration. Illegal immigration is basically zero. Deportations have never been higher. They are already implementing plans to make birthright citizenship worthless for foreigners. Got what I voted for again! Also, you can outlaw dual citizenship by statute under Section 5 of the 14th Amendment. The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. It could just state that any person born a citizen of the U.S. who thereafter is determined to be or becomes a citizen of any other nation or receives benefit directly or indirectly of such citizenship is deemed thereby to renounce their U.S. citizenship. It makes the 14th Amendment condition subject to the jurisdiction thereof self-enforcing, where being or becoming a subject of any other jurisdiction surrenders U.S. citizenship automatically. Since surrender of subjection to U.S. jurisdiction and attending loss of citizenship must be enforced, this approach is authorized by Section 5. There are so many ways to skin this cat. If you are actually a trustworthy patriot who cares about this, thinks this is going to be the absolute death of America, then you are going to be dedicating yourself to the years-long process that some of these things may take. Or you can just curl up in a ball and cry like a faggot. Dan Holloway says the president has broad authority under INA 212F, the Immigration and Naturalization Act, to suspend entry of any class of aliens or impose any restrictions he deems appropriate whenever their entry would be detrimental to U.S. interests. You saw Tom Homan making the case that birth tourism And the actual application of birthright citizenship is a matter of national security. So there's the beginning of a legal pretext for these sorts of moves. The Supreme Court upheld this expansive power in Trump v. Hawaii in 2018, confirming the president can decide who enters, on what conditions, and for how long. This was upheld in 2018. You're telling me there was a plan. Are you trusting the plan, Anon? This includes the ability to require medical testing, such as pregnancy tests for women, as a condition of entry. The statute is not limited to the specific health grounds in INA 212A1. The president can define classes of aliens, including pregnant women and their spouses and families, whose entry is detrimental, for example due to birthright citizenship, public resource burdens, demonstrated through the percentage of them on welfare, or sovereignty concerns, often described as an invasion through anchor babies. So, the president, within authority that's already been recognized by the Supreme Court, can define particular classes of aliens, such as pregnant women and their spouses and families, as public resource burdens or sovereignty concerns. More, by applying the requirement to the entire family unit, equal protection issues are avoided. The plenary power over immigration gives wide latitude for such measures. This policy is fully within the president's legal authority under current law and precedent. The question is, since Congress and the Republicans, House GOP and Senate GOP are fucking useless, will POTUS have the sense and the balls to actually do something? Yeah, AI Teddy Roosevelt told Trump that there's no such thing as a hyphenated American. That was the other thing. I saw multiple different administration accounts that said that they posted that quote from Teddy Roosevelt, that there's no such thing as a hyphenated American. Politically Catholic over on YouTube says, makes my heart melt to contribute to the Make Eastwood an Older Brother Fund. Sir, we love you. You are a patriot. And that teal bucks, I was just starting to say, as long as we can get over the 50% mark on the tip goal here, then we'll watch that JD Vance interview. And right as I was starting to say that, Politically Catholic came soaring in and accomplished it in one fell swoop. We still do have a goal to get to, and I wiped the slate clean over at forum.kingpill.com, reset it for the month. So make sure you go back over there. Go to forum.kingpill.com, sign up, and if we hit the goal tonight, then we will do a drawing. Ooh, some of you guys are on top of it. You've already signed up. Well done, fellows. And of course, tips.kingpill.com to contribute. Here's another one. If you're a U.S. citizen and you're living abroad, you have to file taxes on your income. Doesn't matter where it's from. And if you want exclusions or credits, you still have to file. This is the number one reason why departing Americans renounce their citizenship. The IRS should be mining foreign countries looking for anchor babies and other citizens who aren't filing. Instead of obsessing about whether your grandma reported her Etsy knitting earnings, they should be focused on this. And then you can give them a choice. Renounce your citizenship or pay back taxes on everything you owed, including penalties. Mr. Treasury Secretary, sir. Mr. Besant. Mr. Alphafag. Can you work on this little job right here? I'm sure you've got some guys that you could put on it. President Trump is clearing the runway for supersonic flight. Today, as directed by the president's executive order, U.S. DOT proposed new rules for noise limits instead of speed limits for our next generation supersonic aircraft. Next generation supersonic aircraft! This has baffled me for so long. How do we not have supersonic aircraft for our domestic flights? American ingenuity broke the sound barrier once before. Supersonic innovation means quieter, faster, and safer travel for people and goods across the country. Guys, you have no idea just what this country is going to look like in 10 years. Imagine being able to fly across the country in like 2.5 or 3 hours. I was going to say imagine being able to fly across the ocean in half the time, but who would want to? LA to New York in 2.5 hours. Wouldn't that Wouldn't that be incredible? The return of supersonic flight. Look at the absolute keynote. Big things happening, boys. And then this one as well. Eagle Ed Martin. Haven't seen him on the show here in a little while, but this one was worth it. Free at last. So great to be with Tina Peters. She's a smart and great lady, and she's still fighting for us in clean elections. God bless her. This one is just kind of just slid under the radar. But because of the work of Ed Martin and Trump and Todd Blanche, Tina Peters is free, meeting with the president at the White House. He says, Tina and I called Todd Blanche to say thanks. History will show, I'll be writing it, that Todd and I and a few others fought like hell to get Tina free. We hated how long it took, but we never stopped, and POTUS never stopped pushing. Free at last. Will any of the doomfags who are crying about how the White House had abandoned Tina Peters, Todd Blanche is a snake, he's the one that's obstructing everything, any of those people, are any of them ever going to admit that they were wrong about anything? Of course not. Of course they won't. And yet, we were told Mark Wayne Mullen taking over for Kristi Noem was going to mean that mass deportations was over. The exact opposite's happened. We were told that Todd Blanche taking over for Pam Bondi was going to mean that all the prosecutions and stuff and all the actions of the DOJ were just going to get neutered even more. Nothing was going to happen. Do these people ever get tired of just being wrong? Like how? I can't imagine being publicly wrong like that constantly and still showing my face in public. Still going out and talking, putting my opinions out for people to listen to and take seriously. I can't imagine. How do you lack that much shame? These are just weak, cowardly, terrible people. But you know who's not weak or cowardly or terrible? Strong, brave, and wonderful. It is Michael Knowles. And JD Vance. JD Vance, of course. I've never said this in an interview before. JD Vance on faith, Iran, and AI. Boys, the time has arrived. I got about 20 minutes into this the other night. A couple people have posted in the Discord and said, this is incredible. Have to listen to it. You have to play this on the lab. I was like, all right, obviously I'm going to listen to the JD Vance interview with Michael Knowles. I love both of these guys. But I prioritized it, made sure that I listened to it. And 20 minutes in, I was chimping. I was beside myself. I can't believe anybody could ever doubt our great vice president. So, get ready. We've got this is about an hour long. I'm going to play the whole thing, or at least up until my sister needs to be picked up from work, which it's 7 o'clock. We probably got time to get through the whole thing before she's ready. So, Slutty Mook says it's a great interview. Hopefully you guys have something to drink, some caffeine, some alcohol, some nicotine, something like that. Tuck in and prepare for something wondrous. You will have to suffer through. I'll try to skip through the ads as much as I can, but that's the one thing. The one thing, Michael Knowles, I understand. You got to pay the bills. But twice in the duration of this live stream, I've gotten a little pop-up over on YouTube that says, now would be a good time to insert mid-roll ads. And I said, no, I'm not going to insert mid-roll ads. I'm trying to reduce the number of ads. Mr. Knowles, sir, just a suggestion.
Conversion story. I don't usually do interviews on my daily show. I rarely plug politicians' books. But when I heard there was a new book out on a religious conversion, specifically a conversion to Catholicism, I could not resist sitting down with the author, who just happens to be the Vice President of the United States, with war brewing around the world, political breakdown at home, especially on the right, and AI advancements that threaten to upend all of society and even our view of ourselves. I think we're all feeling a little apocalyptic. So, joining me to weigh in on all these matters and more is Vice President JD Vance. I'm Michael Knowles. It's The Michael Knowles Show.
I do think that it was a missed opportunity to not have JD as part of the title sequence here, the intro video. But I could imagine you know, you got the sitting vice president. That might be a little over the top. Like an interview is one thing, but actually being integrated into it, we're not quite there yet. We're going to get there. We're going to get there, but we're not there yet. Sounds weird hearing it so slow.
Mr. Vice.
Yeah, Living Dead says, every time I listen to Knowles, I get a newfound appreciation for just how fucking smart and articulate he is. Yeah, one of our greatest Catholics. He's probably can't say that he's my favorite Catholic because there's some other candidates for that, but he's way up there. He's way up there. Michael Knowles is a absolute patriot and a gentleman, legitimate scholar, legitimate brilliant mind, and one of the greatest temperaments you'll ever see.
Vice President, thank you for being here.
It's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
I'm really sorry that we're not in my usual studio. We're in your town.
That's right.
If we were in my studio, we would be in nice, big, comfortable chairs, maybe with a cigar. This is a little bit more formal, but I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course.
Because I've read a lot of political books. I have a lot of friends who are politicians, and most of the books are horrible, and I don't even actually read them. This book, I really, really enjoyed. It's not flattery at all. Everyone needs to go out and get Communion by J.D. Vance.
Thank you.
Because this touches on something that I care about more than Iran and AI and 2028. We'll get to all of it, which I have to ask about. But this touches on something I care about a lot more, which is a religious conversion, specifically to Catholicism. And the way that I know that your conversion is sincere is that no American politician in his right mind would ever convert to Catholicism for self-interested reasons. Yes. Yeah. So I have to ask, one, why did you do it? And two, you're not the only one. You are, in many ways, the kind of voice of the millennials and the older Zoomer generation here. There's been a big surge in religious reversion, and especially to Catholicism. Why? We will get to much more with our vice president friend, but first, you need to...
2 minutes and 25 seconds. Michael, puretalk.com. I've said before that... there you go. There's a screen cap for you. Me when I'm listening to Michael Knowles interviewing J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is an exceptional code switcher among different white people, cultures, and dialects. Listen as they talk here. The way that, if you've listened to Knowles before, you know the dude is a firecracker. He's sharp as hell. And watch how Vance just effortlessly talks on the same like philosophical, theological level as him. And he's doing it like authentically. This is just an environment that he's totally happy to be in. The what would you call it? Like the sort of institutional, philosophical, foundations where they're talking deep philosophy, that sort of thing. Like, he's perfectly at home in that environment. He's also perfectly at home, like on the street, just like chatting with people. He's also perfectly at home in like the VC world, talking business and economics, and he could speak any I keep wanting to say right wing. He can speak any white dialect that exists.
What you value. Okay, back to the vice president.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for doing this. It's good to see you. Thanks for calling in DC. I know we had planned to schedule this last week, I believe, and I had to go to Switzerland, so thank you for being here.
I will never forgive the Iranians for doing that to me, but we're here now.
We're the Swiss. But, okay, before you get into the why Catholicism, I think you have to get into the why Christianity, then not Christianity, then back to Christianity, and then get there. So let me give like the 90-second summary of my faith journey from when I was a kid until I was 24, 25. So basically, raised in an evangelical household, raised by my grandmother, but with like a lot of Pentecostal flavor from my biological father. Basically unchurched. I would go to church with my dad, my stepmom sometimes, but mainly it was with my grandma. We would watch TBN, we'd watch Paul and Jane Crouch, we'd watch Billy Graham revivals. And I realized after my grandmother died, this is when I was 21 years old, maybe 20, but right before I left for Iraq in 2005, Mamaw died. And I realized that was my connection to Christianity. So there was no institutional connection. And that's sort of one of the subtexts of the book is trying to raise my own kids in a more institutional faith and the hope that it takes in a way that I didn't. Because 2 years after my grandmother was dead, I called myself an atheist.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm an atheist. I become, and maybe I always was, a striver. I'm obsessed with achievement for achievement's sake. And
really, Mr. Vice President? Shocked to hear it.
Yeah. And I get to.
This is a very interesting thing for someone in Vance's position to readily admit. And he's said this in most of these interviews that he's done. He said it on The View. He said it with Bill Maher, describing himself as someone who recognizes that he is motivated by striving. Like there's the striver class that is something he naturally fits into, and he is motivated by this desire for achievement's sake. That's a very interesting thing to just publicly admit and lean into, because it could easily be used as an attack line. Like, he's not sincere; he's just like thirsty for power. He's the aspiring fascist who just wants power to crush people, which is why I would vote for him. But it's a very interesting thing for him to just readily admit that openly and embrace it. It's actually a major power move in itself.
I get to law school and I'm at Yale, and I realized that I've won all these competitions, the meritocratic competitions that life had told me to win, but I found them deeply unfulfilling. And frankly, I found that I was becoming a shitty person in the process, or a bad person, excuse me, if you have to edit that out. I don't know, what are the rules on
We never go blue on this show. We make exceptions for top government officials.
Okay, I have terrible language, as I talk about in the book. One of my many non-Christian, or one of my many traits I have to work on as a Christian. Okay, so.
Even something like, you can hear this in his talking, where he says, one of my non-Christian, and then he kind of hesitates because he's like, I don't want to say that the use of profanity is itself non-Christian per se. It's that it's a trait that I have to work on. It's something that I need to get better at. And cheeky.
Happy America Month. Thank you for all your Trustin Bubby Kissy Face.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Dale, for the kissy face. Thank you, Cheeky. So just, you can hear, like, as he's talking, you can hear his brain working. He starts to say something. He's like, no, that's not quite what I want to say, and he modifies it. So he says first he says it's one of my unchristian traits, but it's not an unchristian trait to swear, to use profanity. But using it inappropriately or excessively, then that's a thing then that as a Christian it's something you have to work on. And which also sort of, maybe I'm a little biased here, but there's a level of theological sophistication, I think, that's implied by him doing this in real time as he's talking.
The non-Christian, or one of my many traits I have to work on as a Christian. Okay, so I am at law school. I'm doing very well in sort of all the worldly things. I'm doing not so well in the non-worldly things. I fall in love. That woman is now the second lady and soon to be mother of 4 Vance children, currently the mother of 3 Vance children. And I sort of realized, like, everything I've geared my life towards over the last few years is hollow. But this person I'm in love with, she really wants me to be a good husband, eventually a good father. She wants me to care about virtue, being a good human being in, like, the deepest sense of the word. And I kept on returning to this idea that the elites who fashioned themselves hyper-rational, they didn't believe in superstitious things like Jesus Christ is the Son of God. They were the ones who seemed to be the least focused on what mattered, the least focused on what mattered. Yeah. And meanwhile, it was all these sort of bumpkins that I dismissed as sub-rational, as superstitious, who seemed to have things figured out in a much deeper way. So that leads me down the pathway back to Christianity. And I think that
the bumpkins I dismissed as sub-rational. It continually, every time I listen to him, it just blows my mind that we have a guy like this who is not just in a position of extraordinary political power, but is clearly lined up as the heir apparent for the presidency. Who is he's me? He's just, I've never identified with a public figure more than I do with JD Vance, and he's a fucking vice president.
I think that was almost 90 seconds, maybe a little bit longer, but. Okay, then it's like, how do you become a Christian in this world? And there are all of these things that attracted me to Catholicism. So number one, I really liked the sense that it was institutionally stable. Okay, and again, going back to my unchurched upbringing, when things were going well in my religious life, it was very much attached to, like, a single individual, whether it was my grandmother or a pastor, and sometimes the pastors would come and go. I was really attracted to the idea that, like, in this church, the mass was more or less the same, whether you were on vacation in some faraway country or whether you were in suburban Cincinnati. But I also like doctrinally that, like, things didn't change based on who the person giving the homily was. And that sense of stability, the idea that Christian doctrine was fundamentally founded on Jesus Christ and the church beyond that, that if it really is founded on Jesus Christ, it shouldn't change. Now, of course, it's going to have to apply itself to new circumstances. When Jesus Christ died and rose from the dead, we didn't have automobiles, we didn't have, modern narcotics, we didn't have a lot of the things that they were dealing with at the time. But the principle is fundamentally immovable. And then there's an open question about how you apply the principle to new things.
Living Dead says, once again, no admin has ever said Christ is the Son of God and stated that as plain truth more than this one. How can you blackpill? Yet more evidence that blackpilling is spiritual bankruptcy. It works both directions. When you blackpill, you bankrupt yourself spiritually. And the act of blackpilling, the decision to blackpill, is born out of spiritual bankruptcy, a lack of spiritual sensitivity. You can't perceive these sorts of things and recognize the significance or the import of them.
And then the final thing I'd say is, and then we can, I'm sure, go into the details. I'm trying to summarize this very quickly because I know we only have an hour. But there is something about the connection between the past, the present, and the future that I really liked about the Catholic Church. This idea that you had your role to play, whether it was a big role or a small role in the life of the church. You were inheriting that from thousands of years of history, and you would eventually die and hopefully be rejoined with the Lord. And you would pass on that legacy to some other person who would then carry it on after you. Right. That continuity across the generations I found very, very attractive. And one of the things I write about in the book is that sort of one of these existential fears that animate me. I've never been particularly afraid of dying. Mm-hmm. It's funny when we had this sort of situation at the Willard Hotel, or no, we're in the Willard Hotel right now. Currently. Where was the White House Correspondents Association dinner? Anyway, there was the assassination. It was at the
Hilton, maybe?
Yeah, wherever it was. And it was obviously focused on the president, but you hear loud noises and then the guys with the machine guns run in and you're kind of like, oh, something kind of crazy is going on. The idea of dying doesn't really scare me. It's never scared me, whether as an atheist or as a Christian. And I talk about that a little bit in the book, Communion, you should buy it, that I've always been somewhat troubled by that because, if you think potentially hell is waiting you on the other end, shouldn't you be really afraid of it? But I've just never been afraid of dying. What I have been afraid of, and there's this existential dread that kind of animates me. We haven't gotten into this in any of the interviews that I've done, but I guess we can get into it here, is this idea that the continuity across generations is going to stop with us.
Yeah.
That we inherited something, and instead of building upon it and passing it on, it's just going to die with us.
You see it decay.
Feeling of decay and of stasis rather than dynamism and growth. And that
decay and stasis versus dynamism and growth. This is Mark Andreessen's ears are tickling when he hears lines like that. Like, I could tell JD Vance could jump into a Kingpill Discord voice chat, and sit there and just would be interested in talking about the things that we're interested in talking about. Has gone through many of the same experiences and fought through many of the same things and shares all of the same values. And not just that, he's willing to authentically communicate all of this in the position that he's in, and does so entirely naturally and compellingly and humbly. It's just, we are so blessed, boys. Let me see if I can find this real quick, actually. I don't know if, is Miranchuk still in the YouTube chat? Oh, I clicked away from it, so I wouldn't even know. Oh yeah, he says, I knew JD was a great communicator, but these last few interviews have been masterclasses. Yes. He said the other day, we were talking about something, and he said, my only real complaint about Americans is that you lot are so damn spoiled that any American self-hatred really turns my stomach. It's literally, my lobster is too buttery, my steak is too rich. So true. We are so incredibly blessed. And it is a sin against the world for Americans to engage in self-hatred. For Americans to talk about the evil of America and be embarrassed about being American, or forecast doom for America. It is a sin of despair. Amy says, imagine JD listening to a Magoo story. Magoo! Or arguing with Hines. Or being called a nigger by Mr. Sue. If that's not an advertisement for the Kingpill Discord, I don't know. I don't know what is. Kingpill.com. You got to come join us. We'll have a voice chat tomorrow evening, of course. So make sure you join in time for that. Or him laughing at the soundboard noises. Yeah. Nut.
I fucking love trains!
I felt like the Catholicism's continuity was in some ways an antidote to that because it's, there are certainly things you can look at our world. I think there are things you can look at and be very hopeful about. There are things you can look at in our modern world and be very despairing about. But if you look at the long history of the Christian faith, it's very hard not to say that many, many other people in many, many generations past had it far worse than we did.
Yes.
And that gives me a certain sense of, okay, like maybe we should stop whining and try to build something rather than just complain about how bad things are for us right now.
Right.
Stop whining and try to build something instead of complaining about how bad things are. Just straight to the soul. Living Dead says JD is literally the amalgamation of our guy. If we could mash all of the best elements into a personable ball and then have it sculpted into final form by the best, most relatable PR team in history. A ball, you say?
It is the church is the only institution from antiquity that has survived in the West.
Yes,
all the time. So I totally get it, and I feel that anxiety. It bothers me whether we're talking about a restaurant or we're talking about a monument in Washington D.C. It bothers me to see it get dirtier and fall apart and be neglected even in the minds of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel that same anxiety, and even your story of you come from modest means. You end up at Yale, you become much more conservative and Christian, I guess, as a result of that, lose a maternal figure, and come to the faith in a large way through intellectual figures. It resonates.
Sure.
I get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In the book, you talk about a few of those figures in particular, Augustine, Aquinas, René Girard, the 20th century Catholic writer about mimetic desire. Yeah.
Girard mentioned! There's a couple of these here in this episode. I'm waiting for one in particular, but did you say it there? I was paying attention to the chat. Hold on.
Conservative and Christian, I guess, as a result of that, lose a maternal figure, and come to the faith in a large way through intellectual figures. It resonates.
Sure.
I get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In the book, you talk about a few of those figures in particular, Augustine, Aquinas, René Girard, the 20th century Catholic writer about mimetic desire.
I'm honestly ashamed that I haven't gotten the book and read it yet. Don't worry, I'm going to do it. Oh shit, Croatia just scored against Portugal. 1-0.
Yes, preach. I love it.
Preach,
this
Queen!
Then leads me to wonder. After you were brought back to the faith, in no small part through the intellect, thinking of the decline of civilization, thinking about these great writers, thinking about the doctrines and parsing differences between them.
Yep.
Did you have any religious experience? What C.S. Lewis would call the numinous experience?
I'll make a reference to this again. The episode that I did, The Conversion of J.D. Vance. Look for it on the YouTube channel or on the podcast. The Conversion of J.D. Vance is the title of the episode. And I read an article where J.D. Vance wrote about his conversion process. And one of the things that I most identify with is that it was the intellectual, he read his way into the church, as they say. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just the intellectual part. Then it was also the experiential part and the going and actually experiencing the life of the church. Obviously, I'm Orthodox. He's Catholic. I'm Orthodox for a reason. He's Catholic for a reason. We're not gonna have these brother wars right now. Not in the context of our vice president. There's the people who join the church. They don't really care about the intellect, the history, the theology, the doctrines or whatever. Like that's not really their domain. They want to go and experience the life of the church. Then you have the people like yours truly who were argued into the church. It was the intellectual and historical, philosophical underpinnings and outworkings. Those are the things that pulled us into the church. And then you experience the experience of it that grounds all of that. He's literally me.
Did you ever see a ghost kind of thing?
Never quite saw a ghost, but definitely. And, one of the things I talk about in the book, and this is something I'm still very much working on, is when I returned to the faith, one of the things that had just degraded during my many years of not being religious at all was my ability to pray. And so I can remember distinctively, 14, 15, 16, like talking to God and being able to talk to God in this very natural way. And then I start returning to the faith, and I go to pray, and I'm not exactly sure what to say. And there's this interesting way in which just that prayer muscle had kind of atrophied. It's come back. I don't know that it's come back all the way. But one of the things, I really liked about the sort of the ancient Christian canon was all of these prayers that were just, you say the prayer, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the most important is the Lord's Prayer. There's the glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. And you sort of go through these prayers, and I found that inner conversation with God was a very good part of just getting me back into the ritual practice of prayer again.
No big deal, just the vice president talking about his personal prayer life.
And so, yeah, like Augustine was fascinating, Aquinas is fascinating, Girard was particularly fascinating to me, but like the faith can't just be something that you think about. It has to be something that you practice, and it has to be something that you feel. And that was very much, again, something that was part of my own faith journey I write about in the book. But the interesting thing, so there's this quote from Pulp Fiction I keep returning to, which is, I'm going to butcher a little bit, but it's right after, Samuel.
We go from Augustine and Aquinas references to Pulp Fiction references. Just, I don't have anything to say except for literally me.
Jackson and John Travolta, these gangsters just murder a few people. Yeah. And then, but they miss one guy, and that guy's like hiding in the bathroom. So he pops out and he shoots at point blank range. Samuel Jackson is totally fine, right? Despite the fact that multiple bullets should have hit him. And he kind of looks around, he kills the guy who tried to shoot him. And then he has this religious sort of epiphany. And that's really the entire movie from his perspective, is this ongoing religious journey. Now, what's fascinating about it is he talks about miracles, and there's this debate between him and John Travolta about whether this counts as a miracle. And he says, look, what matters is not whether this is an according to Hoyle miracle. What matters is that I felt the touch of God.
Yeah.
Okay. And just two things sitting here right now when I think about like feeling the touch of God. Okay. One of which I didn't even write about in the book. It just occurred to me now, but I'm going to tell it to you. The first one, and I guess he's outed himself now. This is Ross Douthat and I. We're having a conversation, and this is in 2019 probably. And, he at the time was one of the foremost conservative critics of Pope Francis. And my view of the papacy is, you don't treat it like you're a congressional representative. It's not a political office. Obviously you can have pragmatic disagreements, but like, you should have a little respect for it as a practicing Catholic.
Yes.
Okay. And so Ross and I were going back and forth about whether he was properly deferential, even to this person who was, clearly not aligned with American conservatives on a whole host.
I'm also I'm impressed at his willingness to just openly, what would you say, openly engage with this question of the Pope and, Catholics' relationship to the Pope and what the office is and what it represents, and like being not like running away from that or not avoiding these sorts of controversial things. He's happy to just lean right into them, and he does it so effectively.
Even to this person who was, clearly not aligned with American conservatives on a whole host of issues.
It's a very diplomatic way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. So we're at a conference, we're having this argument, we're in like the basement of this hotel. There's a kind of an open bar that's been set out for it.
Miranchuk says, hey, remember when I said that Girard was going to be the most important philosopher in the 21st century? He did say it. That Miranchuk fellow likes to call his shot, and he's got a pretty good hit rate.
And we're drinking too much and talking about Catholicism and talking about the Pope. And I make this kind of really strident argument about the papacy. And, even talking about it, it sounds insane, but there's like a wine glass back behind the bar. And it's not like we're in southeastern Ohio. It's not like there was an earthquake. Just kind of one glass kind of jumps off and shatters on the ground in the middle of this conversation. And both Ross and I have this sort of moment where like, oh, that was really weird.
Yeah.
And again, is it an according to Hoyle miracle? Maybe, maybe not, but I felt the touch of God.
Maybe. If a guy can rise from the dead, a glass can fall off a shelf.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that felt like a very powerful moment. I'll give you another.
The image of J.D. Vance and Ross Douthat sitting down, knocking back glasses, debating theology is just, there are no other major politicians in recent memory who would have been engaged in a conversation like that or enjoyed it or like it. I can't put any other major politician in recent history in that environment like that, in that setting. Yet it reminds me very much of the caliber of man who once led the country near its founding. This is exactly what the founding feathers would have spent their time doing. This is exactly how they would have entertained themselves.
another just very stupid moment, but not stupid. It's disrespectful to God.
Providential.
Providential. But okay, so there's a church in Cincinnati that does really early confessions on either Saturday or Sunday.
This is about to be one of the most relatable stories that you'll ever hear from someone, much less a vice president.
Okay, it's in the Oakley neighborhood of Cincinnati, St. Cecilia's Church. Okay, and they would always do really early confessions. I think on Sunday. So like if I hadn't gone to confession in a couple months, I always wake up really early, but you had to be there by like 7 a.m. or something. Okay, so I'd get in my minivan and I'd go to confession before the kids were even awake on a Sunday morning. Okay, I remember one time distinctively being like, if you weren't in line by 7:15 or sort of you kind of have missed your window. I remember distinctively like I woke up at 7:02 later than I normally wake up, and I'm like, there's no way I can make it to St. Cecilia's Church. But I just felt this little voice like, go and try to make it. Maybe the line will be extra long. Maybe you'll get in at the very end. And the ride from my house to St. Cecilia's is probably a 15-minute drive. I got there in like 8 minutes because every single red light was green.
Yeah.
And like, again, maybe every red light was green. Maybe just a coincidence of the universe, but I felt the touch of God. I got in line in time, and just little things like that. My attitude on this is, I've talked with buddies about this, some of whom are still very, very atheist and very non-religious, is like, I really do think that there are these moments where God speaks to all of us. You just have to be trying to listen a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, every few months I'll have a little moment like that where it's like, that was kind of weird. Like, what are the odds that the 25 traffic lights from my house to St. Cecilia's, maybe it's only a dozen, but there are a lot of them, that all of them would be green in such a way that made it possible for me to get there very quickly.
Right.
Anyway.
We will get to much
The driving in the minivan thing was just put the whole story together just pristinely.
50th birthday. I've noticed this. You mentioned confession about the state of grace.
Yeah.
And something about the state of grace that's really nice is the priest cuts all the demons off you, and so your life is better. But the other thing, just about your perception, it seems to me that all those little signs, the Christian view of the world is a deeply semiotic view. Nothing is merely what it seems.
Yeah.
Everything means something.
How many presidents or vice presidents in recent memory would know what semiotic means?
St. Thomas Aquinas begins the Summa Theologia with that observation. And in the state of grace, you kind of see it a little bit more, I think. But on the flip side, when you're in a real state of sin, Dante trying to walk up the mountain, sometimes then God, he doesn't just whisper at you. Sometimes he shakes you and says, hey, idiot, pay attention. Why aren't you? And so I think, yes, if you go into a room, even of these liberal elites that you assail in the book, that rightly assail, you go into a room and you say, do you believe in God? No. Do you believe in miracles? No. Do you believe in this, that? No. But if you ask them something as silly as, have you ever seen a ghost? Mm-hmm. A lot of them will say yes. Right. We all kind of know that there's meaning in the world. So then on this point of all, you go to these very liberal institutions.
Okay, so can I make an observation just
please?
Okay. One of the really interesting things about just the secular, hyper-progressive, hyper-liberal age that we live in is you realize how many of the rituals and
Mr. Sue says, what I miss. You missed us talking about you calling J.D. Vance a nigger in the King-Pilled voice chat.
Institutions and practices of Catholicism show up in the modern world completely divorced from the God part and the grace part of it. Okay, so we're thankfully, thanks to Donald Trump, I would say,
so true.
We're past the point where most people, at least that I see, hang out those hideous signs in their yard that say, in this house, we believe, blah, 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 blah. Love is love.
Water is people.
Science,
whatever.
No person is illegal. Okay. So that sign is like such a disgusting butchering of the Nicene Creed. And when you realize, you're like, oh my God, that people still have this desire to profess, to do it very publicly, and even to do it in this kind of cadence that you see in the Nicene Creed. And of course, they do it in this very politically motivated way. Confession.
I can't remember who it was, but I heard someone just recently who made that very same observation. Because it wasn't like, it was one of those things that as soon as I heard it, I was like, whoa, that's totally true. It does have that same cadence. It's clearly just like a knockoff. And now I really wish I knew who it was that had said that, because I want to know if this is something that he just kind of came to independently, or if he and I were listening to the same person.
Confession is another thing. It's like I've motivated way. Confession.
Mirachuk says JD never lets the conversation get away from him. He'll always jump in to prevent a gish gallop. Yep. He is such a natural. He's just a natural communicator. He's so good at engaging with someone else and being able to control the conversation, but doing it in a like a likable natural way so it doesn't feel like he's imposing himself.
Confession is another thing. It's like I find, as a Protestant, I find confession deeply uncomfortable. I still do. But
ditto, and I'm a cradle Catholic. You know,
but it's just like the craziest ritual. You're gonna go in this tiny booth and sit there with a total stranger and tell them about every terrible thing you've done over the last couple of months. It's nuts. But if you think about it, it is so similar to the ritual of modern therapy, of course. But minus the guilt and forgiveness. Like the thing that's I talk about the liberation of guilt.
Too. Yes,
because there's actually, I've always heard this phrase Christian guilt or Catholic guilt, as if it's terrible to feel guilty when you do something bad. But sometimes if I'm impatient with my kid, for example, it's kind of a good thing to feel guilty.
Yes.
To feel like there's
We're going to have a president who recognizes and appreciates that modern therapy culture is a hollow, degenerate ripoff of the sacrament of confession. Blackpilling is illegal. We need to take these black pillars and what's the thing called where you have like the cage with the bars that you like hang out and you put someone in it, like the birds come and like the bugs and they stay out in the sun and everything. That's where the black pillars are going to go.
There's an inner voice telling you to be a better human being, a better father, a better husband. So then you go and talk to somebody about it, but not in this like, maybe I yelled at my kid because, my mom
I hate my dad
when I was 9 years old, and then I never dealt with the unresolved trauma of it. Maybe that there's certainly an element. I do believe that the demons of everyone's past continue to follow them around. I write about this concept in the book. Yeah. But maybe the reason that, you weren't super patient with your kid is just that you're a flawed human being and you screwed up. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I screwed up, I should feel bad about it, and I should make amends. And I think that that seems to me is like a much healthier, but also much truer to human nature way to think about misconduct and right and wrong.
Yeah, of course. I have a buddy actually who put a sign in his yard with the same font. It says, "In this house we believe in God the Father Almighty."
That's brilliant.
Yeah, you see all of it. I mean, the transgender transition, which is, they refer to the past as a dead name. I mean, that is a kind of a secular.
Gibbeting. That was the term I was looking for. Gibbeting. When you get hung out in a cage. It's a method of torture that could often become a method of execution.
Or baptism.
That's right.
You see all of these echoes. So look, I guess that gets to the first point, which is why are these young people converting, especially to more liturgical, traditional, especially Catholic religion? Well, because it has the real version of the things that they're seeking in the world. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
In harder politics and policy, you're at all of these liberal institutions, Yale Law School especially, but elsewhere, traipsing around.
Portugal has tied it up. Ronaldo with a penalty in the 68th minute is now 1-1.
Rich businesses and all the rest.
Sure.
And the one thing that everyone agrees on is meritocracy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have probably my two favorite chapters of the book. One is pulling from Pope Leo XIII's encyclical Rerum Novarum, you call it of New Things.
Yep.
The other one.
That would be the anti-communist encyclical.
One is borrowing from Thomas Carlyle's Mockery of Economics as the Dismal Science.
Yes.
And
25th minute. That was the reference. That's what just set me off. I remember exactly where I was, out in the front yard. J.D. Vance has a chapter in his book about Thomas Carlyle. Are you trusting the plan, Anon? There is a plan, very clearly. A divinely ordained and mandated plan. J.D. Vance is writing about economics as a dismal science in his book. What sort of dude is this? The vice president. Mirachuk says all my doubters can kiss my grumpy ass. Mirachuk now. Tomorrow's future today.
And these are my two favorite chapters of the book. I was arguing with a colleague of mine. He's a friend and a colleague. I won't say his name.
Okay.
He speaks very quickly.
Rene Girard and Thomas Carlyle.
Thomas Carlyle's Mockery of Economics is the Dismal Science.
Yes.
And these are my two favorite chapters of the book. I was arguing with a colleague of mine. He's a friend and a colleague. I won't say his name.
Okay.
He speaks very quickly, doesn't eat shellfish. I'm not going to say a very famous podcaster, but we were arguing about this because I love this perspective of the Catholic social teaching, the critique of meritocracy, the mockery of economics, which Edmund Burke starts modern conservatism.
You're Jewish.
Mocking the economists, sophisters, and calculators who have destroyed Western civilization.
Yeah.
But what you write is total heresy and blasphemy compared to the last 30 to 60 years of American conservatism.
Sure.
The one thing, no matter what we all disagree on, everyone agreed meritocracy is good, and that's what the left gets wrong, and that we need to double down on meritocracy. You say it stinks. Why?
Well, I think a couple things. I mean, first of all, I think that, I think Aristotle once said that virtue lies in the mean. And like any sort of, there's like the vice and the virtue version of anything.
Fucking floating, listening to this.
I don't think ambition is bad. In fact, I think that if you're ambitious because you want to build, a rocket that goes to the moon, right? We couldn't have gotten to the moon were it not for that kind of ambition. Or if your ambition is to, build a building that a lot of people live in, that provides comfort and so forth, I think that's good. But I think what we've allowed in our modern society, what meritocracy has done is warped it into ambition for ambition's sake. Ambition not to build something beautiful, but to get ahead of other people. Ambition not to make an amazing product, but ambition to make a lot of money for money's sake. And I think that we've allowed that basic human desire to achieve great and beautiful things to be warped into a vice of just being better than other people. Yep. And I think that
Cheeky says socially nationalist techno-theocracy. Preach, brother!
That is sort of what Christian teaching is counseling us against. It's okay, that God makes us, all creatures big and small. Some of us he makes to be ambitious. I'm certainly, an ambitious person. I'm the Vice President of the United States. I think he makes some people who just want more normal things out of life. They want a nice job and they want to provide their kids with nice things, and that's good too. I think that when it becomes warping and disorienting is when it becomes ambition for ambition's sake. And what the meritocracy, I think, the modern meritocracy in 21st century America has done is taught people to want to be better than everyone else. And I think it has two really, really big problems. First of all, if you're orienting yourself not to some objective truth, but to how other people are performing and behaving, you're not your own person and you're certainly not God's person. You're fundamentally following the crowd. This is like an insight from Rene Girard. So at some level, meritocracy is fundamentally derivative of other people.
Yes.
That's a bad thing. So at some level, meritocracy is fundamentally derivative of other people.
Yes.
That's
At some point, meritocracy is fundamentally derivative of other people. I'm going to have to fucking retire from podcasting when JD Vance is the president.
That's a bad thing. The second thing is that I actually think that I don't know how to put this, but I think that meritocracy can steal from us a sense of what really, really matters. And you saw this at Yale Law School. You see it in any elite institution. You don't see people bragging about their kids in the same way they brag about their jobs.
Right.
You don't see people bragging about their relationships as you do the same way they brag about their credentials.
JD Vance, as the vice president, is so far ahead of the podcasting class. For a long time, my entire time being aware of politics, basically, it's been the people in elected office are retarded. And you're just kind of like basically hoping they might stumble their way into doing something useful or good, but they're just totally unimpressive people. JD Vance is lapping the entire commentary class.
And so one of the core lessons of my life is that the most valuable thing I got out of law school was friendships, particularly the relationship with the woman who's now my wife. Those things matter fundamentally way more. Nobody is on their deathbed and looks back and says, this is like the most trite cliche in the world because it's true. Nobody looks back and says, I wish that I had spent less time with my son so that my net worth was $1,000 higher. Right. No one thinks that. And yet meritocracy trains people to think exactly that when they're in the point of their life when those decisions are made.
It's also like
Look at the look on his face when he says this too. Like he's been sort of leaned back. Look at the intensity on his face. Look at the way that he says this. These are like here's your little social intelligence cues. You can see this is a man speaking from his heart about something he's thought about a lot that he believes very passionately.
People to think exactly that when they're in the point of their life when those decisions are made.
It's also like the definition of cynicism, which knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. Yeah. And your telling of these conversations at Yale Law School is,
Cynicism knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. This is why I listen to Michael Knowles, because he just rattles these things off, just off the cuff.
You don't just hear it at Yale Law School. You hear it throughout our culture, and they just tell you that all that matters is slaving away, doing spreadsheets for Mr. McGillicuddy at the widget factory to drive up GDP. And so moving...
And there's a liberation in it. I mean, the craziest conversations that I had at Yale Law School was people who counted themselves as feminists, which, to take like the positive spin on feminism, it would be that women should have the same rights as men. And yet they define success and achievement as spending as much time in a cubicle at Goldman Sachs. I mean, it's enough to make somebody a Marxist and say, you have totally internalized a set of ideas that is completely opposed to your well-being as a human being.
Yeah.
Like, if you think that it is liberating for you to sit in a cubicle at Goldman Sachs, you have been had.
Yes.
And we all got to just admit that before we completely opposed to your well-being as a human being.
Yeah.
Like, if you think that it is liberating for you to sit in a cubicle at Goldman Sachs, you have been had.
Yes.
And we all got to just admit that.
Yes.
This just destroys, just absolutely rends in two the standard American political dialectic. Imagine a president who publicly, vocally opposes feminism on the basis that if you are leaving your children to go sit in a cubicle at Goldman Sachs, you've been had. Living Dead says, JD in this interview basically, Christ is the only exit from this world. All other exits, sexual rapture, political utopia, economic independence, are but blind alleys in which rot the corpses of the many who have tried them. There's a banger. Josh Ham says, we didn't get lucky. God is good and he loves America. So true. So incredibly true.
Before we can make any progress as a civilization.
No, I mean, this is really, on the point about Catholic social teaching, this is the point of Rerum Novarum and Pope Leo XIII. He said, hold on, communism, totally awful, terrible, you can't be Catholic and communist. Every pope since has basically said that. But also, we're not ideological laissez-faire capitalists who think we need to send our kids to the coal mines.
Right.
We have to put these things in their proper order. So then my question for you is, there's been a massive restructuring of what conservatism means. President Trump led a lot of that. So looking ahead, you are the heir apparent now, whether you like it or not.
I guarantee you, Enchanted Hero said, St. Seraphim Rose, pray for us. I guarantee you, J.D. Vance knows exactly who Seraphim Rose is. I guarantee you. Remember, one of his close friends, for better or for worse, is Rod Dreher.
President Trump led a lot of that. So looking ahead, you are the heir apparent now, whether you like it or not, you are. So looking ahead to 2028 and beyond, if there's this thing going on even beyond you, this restructuring of what it means to be a conservative, then if it's not creative destruction, tax cuts for wealthy people exclusively, and just like GDP ticking up.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, first,
get ready. Get ready, boys. It's about time to chimp again.
Well, I think that people need to appreciate how fully they lost the argument. So to the point that they've really moved the goalposts. I mean, if you remember when Donald Trump ran for president the first time, the idea of tariffs on imported goods was a heresy in the GOP.
Yeah.
It is now the baseline position that virtually every Republican politician adopts, is like, of course we shouldn't let foreign countries prey on American workers and prey on American industries.
Immigration.
You notice how he leads that off. He says, people need to realize just how thoroughly they've lost this debate. This is absolutely stunting and mogging on the old guard GOP.
Immigration restriction. Again, there's a cultural and crime and law and order element to it, but there's also a very powerful economic argument that we don't want to let the wages of immigrants undercut the wages of Native American workers. Again, that is just boilerplate at this point in the GOP. And I mean, even things like when the president said a few weeks ago that, he absolutely wanted to seize the equity of the AI companies. And,
you're not supposed to say
that. And it's like, guys, he's the president and he sets the agenda and he just said it. And by the way, nobody really even protested.
Yeah.
So the president has already, and obviously I biased him as vice president, but the president has already completely reoriented the conversation towards what you might call an American developmentalist approach. American economic policy on the right is now much more Alexander Hamilton than and it is Milton Friedman.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously a good thing. You might disagree, but that's just a normative statement.
Notice, though, what you've just said, because for the people who say that betraying some nostalgic retconning of a caricature of the 1980s, that to change that in any way would be abandoning American history and the tradition, you say, hold on, I just went from Milton Friedman to Hamilton,
exactly.
and to some degree George Washington.
Right, 200 years backwards in history, actually. That's very much a foundation of American developmental economics and economic policy. And I do think, I don't want to say you can go back to the future or, forward to the past, but I do think fundamentally that Hamiltonian tradition is going to be what we see in the American right and will dominate American conservative economic thinking for the future.
Yeah.
Which is not lost. I don't want to say you can go back to the future or, forward to the past, but I do think fundamentally that Hamiltonian tradition is going to be what we see in the American right and will dominate American conservative economic thinking for the future.
Yeah.
Which is not
just floating. My feet have hardly touched the ground since I listened to this interview.
not laissez-faire. It's actually much more about, building the kind of tools, building the kind of infrastructure that allow human beings to flourish, that allow national and native industries to flourish at the expense of a hyper-globalized economy. And I think those are the basic principles that are going to carry us into the future. But to me, it's fundamentally about the dignity of the human person. The economy is a tool to service the dignity of the human person. If a set of economic policies make it easier for a person to raise a family, to earn a living wage, to give back to their community, to maybe go to church on Sunday, or to actually spend some leisure time building the kind of life that matters, like that is the sort of thing that we want to be supportive of. Now, obviously, to do those things, you do need economic development.
Yeah.
But
imagine this guy campaigning against Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom, or he makes his prediction. By the way, he makes his prediction about who he thinks he's going to be running against. He wouldn't frame it up that way, but he makes his prediction later in this.
But if you turn economic development into a sort of idol, then you end up sacrificing a lot of the things that matter most. And I do think that, for our friends who are sort of on the more laissez-faire side of the American right, in hindsight, part of why Milton Friedman's ideas made more sense in the 1980s is because they were being advocated in a country that still had a very rich and powerful institutional Christianity. And so, being laissez-faire in a world where there are Christian guardrails on everything is a much different proposition than being laissez-faire in a world where globalized liberalism has become the sort of status quo of American elites.
There's at least a dozen lines that he just says off the cuff in this interview that are knit these in, get the cross-stitch ladies making decorations for our homes for lines like this.
Where there are Christian guardrails on everything is a much different proposition than being laissez-faire in a world where globalized liberalism has become the sort of status quo of American elites.
Of course, because so much of that liberalism, classical variety or more modern variety, it is resting upon a foundation that it did not create, and a foundation that it in many ways weakens. So obviously,
I think that's exactly right. I think you could say this. You could say that about, I have a British friend who,
he's not being interviewed. You think about the vice president goes and gets interviewed, and he's imagine Mike Pence doing an interview like this. He's got a book that he's selling, and you're going to go interview him. You're going to get boilerplate questions and boilerplate answers. No, he's sitting down and having a conversation with a friend of his. Miranchuk says, doubters, please line up in an orderly fashion and commence to kiss Matt and my asses, one cheek at a time, no tongue. Yes, no tongue is a very good addition to that. But yes, the line starts over there.
Has been in British conservative politics for longer than I have, maybe longer than I've been alive. He's on the older side of things. And he was making this observation about Margaret Thatcher to another.
A friend of his who's been very involved in British politics for a long time. Wonder who that might be.
A British conservative who was just scandalized by it, but couldn't push back against it in anything besides an emotional way. He said, Margaret Thatcher, an amazing human being, a true giant in the history of Western politics. But fundamentally, Margaret Thatcher was trying to preserve the shop and the community around the shop that her father had when she was a little girl. And yet, if you look at modern Britain and the result of Margaret Thatcher's policies, you would say that her policies actually got Britain further away from that ideal and not closer to that ideal.
Right.
That's not.
I mean, it seems like such a low standard, but to have leaders who are let's see, there's the stated policy and what the stated policy is how it's outlined. And then you have we're going to do this policy, we're going to do this policy. And then there's the next level of saying, maybe that policy had a great argument, great justification. It was like there was all the great reasons for doing it, but what did it actually accomplish? Where has it gotten us? He's doing the meme. If Thatcherism got you to this point, then of what use was Thatcherism?
It's not, by the way, criticizing her. I think she was trying out something in a very new era, in a situation where things were quite broken. But we have to be honest, like what worked and what didn't work. And I think, unfortunately, I would say Thatcher's politics and a lot of 20th century conservative politics it sort of bought the premises of modern liberalism and was not infused enough with the basic Christian underpinning of the West.
Yeah,
bought the premises of modern liberalism and wasn't infused enough with, what was it, the Christian principles of the modern West? Is that what he said?
And a lot of 20th century conservative politics it sort of bought the premises of modern liberalism and was not infused enough with the basic Christian underpinning of the West.
Yeah.
The basic Christian underpinning of the West. Man!
Ayn Rand is not going to save your culture.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
It's not.
So then we're throwing around all the...
This is a repudiation of Reaganism, by the way. This is a not so soft repudiation of Reaganism, but it's delivered in a way that even people who like Reagan would be like, yeah, I think he's right. So you can preserve the legacy of the man. You could say Thatcher was a good woman who meant well, who was trying to do a good thing. And then we run out the simulation of what Thatcher accomplished, and we realize it doesn't matter if she was a good person who intended to do good things. The effect was bad. So we don't just go and repeat that just because she was a good person, or just because we liked her, or because she was iconic, or whatever. The same with Reagan.
And all these names, all of our good dead friends.
Yep.
5 figures off the top of your head. Thinkers, intellectuals, or statesmen, perhaps.
Okay.
On that cliffhanger, we will get back to the vice president, but first, you need to go to leaffilter.com.
5 figures. So this is kind of it's like what did you call it? A softball sort of question. You take the vice president, the heir apparent, and you say, okay, who are the 5 figures who inform your thinking the most, or who you look up to the most, or whatever. And you generally wouldn't expect to get, you're going to get like kind of boilerplate answers that aren't all that impressive. Listen to the figures that he gives.
Purchase required restrictions apply. See representative for warranty and promotion details.
I'm not going to say Jesus because that's too easy, but that's obviously the one and done.
I think that's a gimme. Yeah. That's the center box on bingo.
But so the 3 who I think have got to be part of this conversation for me are Aquinas, Augustine, and René Girard. I talk about the 3 of them, and all of them in different ways, but very, very influential to my own thinking on these topics. So I probably honestly would put Alexander Hamilton in there, or maybe the French economist, I always forget his name, who basically provided a lot of the developmental influences to Alexander Hamilton. In some ways, Hamilton was just applying this guy's ideas.
This was news to me. I'd never heard of the guy that he's talking about. And now his name just escaped my mind. It was Jacques something, of course. Jacques Necker. See, now I've got to go down through a whole thing. Now, it could have been that he was talking about Liszt. It's possible that that's who he was referring to. But there was a guy named Jacques Necker who was appointed by Louis XVI as the director of the Royal Treasury. And he was a guy who Alexander Hamilton drew heavily from. So, but what stands out to me about this is this is an indicator that he's not just like, oh yeah, someone talked to me about Alexander Hamilton once and gave me the quick rundown on his principles, and he's this historical American person, so I'm going to say, oh yeah, I'm the guy who believes in Alexander Hamilton or whatever. No, this is he has actually gone in and studied this. He knows the context and everything behind the Hamiltonian American system of political economics.
I will get you the name and you can tell your audience later. And then if I had to pick a 5th name, it's...
Miranchuk says, "K, I need to sleep, but I will be doing an epic America 250 stream in the morning on the East Coast. Hope to see y'all there." So morning on the East Coast, tomorrow morning. Miranchuk now. Make sure you guys tune in for that.
See, this is what's very hard about this question, but I might actually say, again, not Frank Meyer, but the Catholic who was pushing back against Frank Meyer.
Well, Meyer converted in the end.
He did convert in the end. No, I'm talking about his interlocutor. I can't remember his name, but he had such
Brent Bozell.
Brent Bozell.
Brent Bozell.
Yeah.
Great answer.
But like,
who ghostwrote Conscience of a Conservative? By the way?
Exactly.
Which is why that book was so good.
Yeah, that's exactly
That
right.
is a great answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy.
Yep.
I too would, one of the unsung heroes of 20th century conservatism. He's moderately sung, I should say, moderately sung hero.
Yeah, but I also think was way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Was very thoughtful about what was actually going on.
Oh, baby. We got another stoppage time goal. There's 10 minutes of second half stoppage time in the Portugal-Croatia match. And Portugal just scored in the 94th.
The conservative movement at the time.
Yeah.
And if you were to look at somebody, you know, one of my mentors in the investment business once told me, like, the most valuable thing you can do as an investor, as a thinker, is to try to identify people who have made discrete predictions about the future and, like, lean on the people who have been more right than wrong.
I wonder who that was. One of his investment advisors. So this is a Scott Adams observation. Maybe it was Scott Adams. That you find the people who have made discrete predictions, so specific, containable predictions about the future, and then see what their record is.
Predicting the future is inherently, as you know, a very, very difficult business.
Yep.
But if you get somebody who's willing to actually say what they think is going to happen and is more right than wrong, that's like a very, very important thinker. And I don't think there's a single person in 1950s America who was more correct about the future of either the American right or the country than Bozell.
Great observation. It also reminds me, the only credit I can take on one of these recently is I called the Pope's name. But it was wish casting. I wasn't predicting it. I just really wanted it to be Leo. I hope that turns out. Speaking of, in the time I have left with you, speaking of...
Josh Ham says, J.D. Vance, the purpose of a system is the result. Banger. Living Dead says, I don't think it was an accident that Hamilton was recast as a foppish black hip-hopper that millennial Redditors can yank off over to each other. It obscures what he actually was and diminishes his actual objectives and impact. So true. So true. And yet, to go a step further, the fact that Hamilton has already been memed to the theater kid class, to the libs just in general, they already have positive associations now with Hamilton. That makes it even easier to then just kind of flip it. It's not that he's some obscure guy who's just like, oh yeah, some founding father, whatever. Oh, he's that guy from the musical. Oh, Hamilton. Oh, he's talking about this history about Alexander Hamilton. Oh, I like the guy. I like the musical. So it makes the Hamiltonian switch possible to stick even harder.
Of international affairs. I understand there's some conflict going on somewhere in the Middle East. The reason that we couldn't do this interview a couple weeks ago. You're obviously in this 27 hours a day.
Correct.
By my understanding, tell me if I have this wrong. By my understanding, the president said on Monday, we might get peace talks Tuesday. Iran immediately comes out and says, we have not scheduled peace talks Tuesday. Then we're in a ceasefire, but we keep shooting at each other. Then the Iranians say, we can't get a deal because Israel keeps firing on Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. So then Israel and Lebanon get a deal, a peace deal. But Hezbollah, which works for Iran, says, we are not going to abide by the deal.
Yep.
And then the Strait of Hormuz is open, but some people say it's closed. And it's not told, but then the Iranians say there are tolls, along with Oman, which we didn't even bring up Oman yet. And so I guess it seems to me, in my layman's understanding, the structural issues preventing peace are all the same as they've been for about 10,000 years. So now, as we're looking at Schrodinger's Strait of Hormuz or the whole conflict generally, what structurally needs to change to bring about peace? Is there any timeline you foresee on that happening, like a lasting peace?
Vance he gives some interesting insight in his answers here on this subject, and there's some stuff to learn and to glean from it.
And crucially, how significant will that be for not just midterms, but 2028?
Well, first of all, I do think that things are...
He basically just never does non-answers. You know, like even when he does have to, like, he's like, basically, I can't say those things. He still is always giving interesting, insightful commentary. Living Dead says, theater kids yearn for the Führer. So true. Zoomer Dylan says, we're going to use the theater kids against the libs. Weaponizing the theater kids against the libs.
Much different than they were even for 2028. Well, first of all, I do think that things are much different than they were even a few months ago. I'm not saying they're going to, I can't predict, of course, the future. But so one, there were scheduled talks, really technical talks building on the negotiation that we've already had. Those are definitely happening tomorrow. One of the things I find just fascinating and frustrating about the Iranians is they'll say, no, there aren't peace talks ongoing, but there are technical talks between the United States and Iran about the peace deals. It's like, okay, so it's a Persian negotiating tactic and a Persian rhetorical device that I don't understand, but that is the way that the Iranians have done this.
Yet more confirmation of exactly what we have been perceiving about the Iranian statements.
One of the things that I think is underappreciated about the president's approach to this whole region of the world is he likes to reshuffle the deck and then see where the leverage points are, where the pressure points are, and see where we can make progress. And that's really where we are right now. Things have changed a lot. The Iranian military is much weaker. The Iranian economy is much weaker. Lebanon and Israel are talking to each other directly in a way that they weren't a few months ago. Yep. They both are sort of broadly aligned. And, you could even make an argument that if you harmonize the Lebanon-Israel peace deal with the MOU signed between the United States and Iran, what both of those documents fundamentally say is that Lebanon's territorial integrity will be respected. Okay, so things have definitely changed. I think the question is whether that change is durable, and I don't know when this will air, probably tomorrow. Okay, so I think what the president has said is, let's let this play out. There are a few things that we want. We want durable commitments that are verifiable and backed up by inspections that Iran will denuclearize their entire country. Okay, we're going to see how we get there. Number two, we want to see what kind of an arrangement actually exists in the Middle East between not just Iran and the United States, but the GCC, Israel, Lebanon. We're going to play that situation out. And then on the Strait of Hormuz, I think you actually said it well, which is that the strait is open in the sense that to oil traffic, we're seeing more oil come out of the Strait of Hormuz, and some days actually more oil coming out of the strait than came out before the war even started. So there's this element of the where the world oil economy is kind of getting back into gear. That's going to take a little bit of time, but you've already seen the prices come way down. Now, what the cynics...
It is interesting that in some cases it's even more than there was before, and I wonder if he's meaning that in terms of literally the ships trafficking through the Strait of Hormuz, or if he's talking about oil coming out from that region in general, including the pipeline and the oil that's being moved across the land over to the Arabian Sea.
Cynics will say as well, if you look at the number of ships that are trafficking, that's actually down from the pre-war start. But they're mostly talking about cargo ships and other vessels. At least so far, what we've seen is the oil traffic has reached its pre-war height. So I think what the president has told us to do is use this MOU to sort of refill the world's oil economy, to refill some stocks, and then to see where the hand is. And, as I've said this repeatedly, if the Iranians are willing to make the commitments that we would like them to make and are willing to back those up with verifiable milestones, then we are going to change our relationship with Iran. And if they don't do that, then nothing has really changed except for what we've already accomplished from the military campaign, which is a lot.
Right. So it's interesting. Like he's sitting here in this room, like chatting with a friend, but he also is the vice president who, when he says things like this, like Iranian officials are going to be tuning in and listening to this to hear what he's saying. Like he's speaking as a representative of the White House and making, if he says something dumb or accidentally lets something slip or whatever in this, that's just as if he was speaking directly from the White House, effectively. So it's interesting. Their focus is denuclearizing Iran, and then the purpose of the MOU is essentially to ease economic pressure on the rest of the world. But what he said in there was an interesting thing. He says if Iran decides to keep working with us on this, then the nature of the United States' relationship with Iran is going to change. And there's a lot of people who are just stuck in this like, oh, we need to get back to how things were before. Well, how things were before was stupid. There are certain things that are going to go back to the way they were before, but there's other things that substantially need to change. The standard is not try to get back to how things were before. And then simultaneously, you have the people on the other side who are like, oh, the United States is like normalizing relations with Iran. How are they doing that? Why is Iran getting these economic benefits and stuff? Because you have the carrot and you have the stick. And those economic benefits are part of the carrot. if Iran begins behaving like a valued member of the region, then they're going to begin to normalize their relationship with the United States is going to begin to normalize its relationship with Iran, which means necessarily things are going to change in Iran. Holy shit. Croatia just tied Portugal in the 14th minute of stoppage time. Yet another, so 2 stoppage time goals in this game. Incredible. So now, unless something else happens, now it's going to go to 30 minutes of extra time, and if it's still tied, then penalties. Ronaldo looks crushed. Aww.
So we kind of have 2 options here. We have the option of pursuing a long-term deal with the Iranians, but that requires a significant change in their behavior. We have the option of banking our wins, and then, of course, doing things on top of that if the president feels that we have to. And I think both of those options are very much in play, and the president's going to let this play out. But what's happening right now is he's letting those options play out in an environment where there is significantly less pressure on the world energy economy. And this is my biggest frustration with right-wing critics of what we've done over the last few months in Iran.
Now, it's interesting how he characterizes this. He says right-wing critics. So, see, what he follows from this, and if I remember right, I think Knowles sort of clarifies something here, but what he perceives as the right-wing critics
is that they don't realize how completely they were losing the political argument because of what was happening to world energy markets.
Yeah.
So what the president of the United States has done...
You're talking about the critics who want more bombs dropping on.
Their attitude is just drop bombs and drop bombs and drop bombs, and they can't really articulate to what end. And what the president is saying, I'm willing to drop bombs, and he's clearly shown that he's willing to drop bombs, but only if it serves an objective. And so what he's doing right now is taking a lot of pressure off of the world economy, the world energy economy in particular, while not giving up a single one of his gains and while preserving a lot of optionality. I think that's a very good place for us to be in, but there's uncertainty because no one can be certain what the Iranians are going to do.
Right. So then the message, if you're an Iranian...
There's uncertainty because no one... It's just exactly how I've perceived this the whole time. Like, what uncertainty is there? You're asking for, like, a certain declaration of how the outcome's going to be, but they've got their like... Iran is going to make decisions and they're going to do things, and the way the United States responds to that is going to depend on the things that they do.
Iranian, the message you're getting from the U.S. is not, okay, we've settled this, you get to...
Right, yeah. So when he was talking about the neocons, he was talking about them as right-wing critics, the right-wing critics. So it's not even giving any air to the retard right perspective on this, which I thought was interesting.
Keep the Strait of Hormuz and we'll try to play nice now. The message is...
Which, like, the implication of that would be that the retard right's perspective on this is equivalent to the left-wing perspective on it.
Okay, we're going to serve our self-interest by replenishing the oil coffers and get back to us.
Oh, holy shit, the goal was called back. Oh, man, there's going to be so much. What a World Cup. Oh, lots and lots of drama. People are going to be so angry.
60 days, you might have some fire and brimstone coming back down.
And if you actually behave, you won't. Right. And that's what the president has fundamentally put out there. Now, it is interesting to me because the Iranians have said, we control the straits. And yeah, we're going to let traffic flow for the next 60 days, but then we're going to negotiate over what happens from there. Okay. And what I find just bizarre about that assertion is that nobody from the Gulf Coast, the Gulf Coalition countries, the Arab countries in the Gulf, and the Omanis, who are sort of the main Iranian, theoretically, partner, all of them have come out and said, we don't accept this Iranian tolling mechanism. And so the Iranians keep on asserting something that isn't actually happening right now, and they don't have a credible pathway to make happen in the future. So I do see this as a bit of a sideshow, because fundamentally, like, their arguments, what I mean is the sideshow is what they're saying.
Yeah.
What will actually happen is going to be determined through a combination of negotiation, diplomatic, economic, and military leverage. What they're saying right now for the consumption of their domestic audience, it really doesn't matter. What matters is what's going to happen.
Sure.
It's something that we're working on right now.
And so then if you look ahead, not just to the midterms, but even to 2028, if this drags on...
Josh Ham says it's very simple. Countries can play ball with America to become wealthy and more sovereign, or they can be antagonistic with America and be poor slaves. They have free choice. Pay the toll. Bingo.
This kind of stasis. The Iranians don't behave, and the Hezbollah keeps up to its antics, and we can't get a peace deal between these 3, 4, 5, 6 countries. How significant is that for the Republican chances in 28? I don't mean to only come back to 2028, but I think it helps clarify what it means for the party. Is this, as the president has said, just a digression, sort of a side quest that we had to deal with because of the Iranian nuclear threat? Or maybe it is that today. Could this become a major moment in the history of the American empire and the Republican Party?
Well, first of all, I just want to be very clear here. Like, this is not going to end in a place where the Iranians are collecting tolls on ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. There's a lot of uncertainty because we don't know how the Iranians are going to behave.
And then that sentence right there is a pretty strong articulation. This is not going to end in any capacity where Iranians are collecting tolls on ships passing through Hormuz. And as you said before, this isn't just because this is the U.S.'s position. This is also all the other Arab states that are implicated in all of this. Like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Behave, but that is just one thing that every country in the region, including Iran's own allies, say is unacceptable.
That would be intolerable.
Unpredictability.
Even Iran's own allies, which he says every country in the region, including Iran's own allies. Now, I'm curious to know when he says every country in the region, including Iran's own allies. Is this referring to the Gulf states, or is this also meaning China and Russia? I mean, I suspect that this also probably includes China and Russia are like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Yes, because the Iranians are inherently unpredictable. Their government's very unstable. Yeah. But I don't think that is going to be a situation that exists. In fact, I feel quite confident that we're not going to have a tolled Strait of Hormuz in the future. But, to your broader question about, like, could this be something that affects the chances in 2028? Could this be a very important historical moment? The answer is obviously yes. But again, how exactly this plays out is very much contingent on the way that the Iranians respond to the leverage the president has put on them. And if they respond well, I think we're going to look back at this and say, we turned over a new leaf. Now, a lot of people are skeptical, including me, that will ultimately happen. And then if the Iranians perform or behave poorly, then I think that we still have a lot of leverage points to ensure that this ends up in a place that is good for America's objectives. So I think fundamentally, there's a desire here for everyone to say this is over, or the Democrats and even frankly some Republicans are saying, well, this shows that Trump blinked. And then other people are saying, it's all over. And the Iranians are saying this. And I would be highly skeptical of what everybody says right now. I think Marcos said this the other day. He said, this is the end of the beginning. Okay. There is a lot more game to play. Yeah. And there are a lot more cards that we're going to see, to mix metaphors here. And the good thing about it is that we're served by an administration, we're served by a president of the United States who is constantly trying to figure out how to gain an edge for the American people. I ultimately strongly believe we will look back on this moment and say we got to a good place. It's going to take a lot of work, not just in the negotiation arena, but in the other arenas too.
Josh Ham says, oh, it's a global American empire, you say? Fair enough. Pay your fees and join our order and prosperity, or you can choose exile. Good luck, choose wisely. The cost increases the later you delay. And of course, this is the America that is currently going through a month of a renaissance in international perception of the wealth and character of America.
I have a great deal of sympathy for the administration, actually, on this because look, I was very skeptical of this intervention before, during, and after. Sure. I favor a restrained foreign policy. But I look at these polls, and I saw a poll a year ago of Americans, especially on the right. How many of you think that we should stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon? 90%, 90%. How many of you want to go to war with Iran? Like 10%, 20%, none. And you say, those are in conflict. Yes.
Same polls.
And then even look to bring it into another issue. It's interesting at this moment that foreign policy, which rarely rises to the top of conservatives' minds, it really does seem to be dominating. You look at China. The Wall Street Journal had this worrisome report out a couple days ago, said that after Anthropic came out with the...
We've got about 12 minutes, 10, 12 minutes left on this video here. I haven't heard from my sister yet, but if the tips start coming in again, then there is some more JD Vance content that I have lined up that we could also get to. And reminder that we do have a goal. If we actually hit the goal, then I will do a drawing, and someone who signs up at forum.kingpill.com will make a little money today.
With the Mythos AI. They said, this is so good. It's so dangerous. We're not going to release this to the public. Wall Street Journal reports China just made its own Mythos. It's out. It's so much for that. That we're clearly in some kind of AI arms race. We appear to be in a Cold War. Maybe it gets a little hot even sometimes with China. And Americans are divided on this, even conservatives. On the one hand, we want to win the arms race with China. On the other hand, we don't want AI to take all of our jobs, build huge data centers in our backyard, raise our energy prices, all the rest. Yeah. So you say, well, no, I don't want to lose the AI arms race, and I don't want the data center in my town. Well, so in the Trump administration, and then looking ahead perhaps to the Vance administration, what does the American foreign policy look like? Because from what I can tell, we want the privileges of empire. but we don't want the obligations of empire.
First of all, I reject the premise of any future Vance administration. I'm very focused on being vice president. Sure. No, yeah, it was very slick, but I refuse to accept it. This aggression will not stand. But on the Trump administration's policy, I mean, like we have tried, and I think we've done a good job of balancing the economic benefits with the downsides of artificial intelligence. Okay. And you're right, we don't want to lose the AI race to China. I think there's an interesting question about how much China's own AI policy is fundamentally derivative of us. And I don't just mean them copying American models. Right. That is part of it. I actually mean, I'm not sure, I don't think many Americans have a good understanding of how the Chinese actually think about AI. I think there's a part of the Chinese policy set, Xi's inner circle that probably...
This is actually really interesting. This insight is was very interesting to me.
AI. I think there's a part of the Chinese policy set, Xi's inner circle that probably just wants to dominate the AI arms race. Yeah. I actually think there is a part of Xi's inner circle that says we don't want to lose to the United States, but we don't want to win either. That I think they're a little freaked out by it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is something that I think is a useful frame for understanding China just in general. That they're like, China doesn't want to be a global hegemon. China doesn't want to have the responsibilities of being at the top. They just don't want to be at the bottom either. They don't want the United States to be too far ahead of them. They don't want the United States to have too much overmatch power against them. Living Dead says China is an adversarial ally, if that makes sense. That's a good, that's a good analogy. Tension in a rope. So there needs to, and this is the Elbridge Colby perspective on China as well. They're like, we don't want to dominate China. We don't want to control or govern or own China, but we just need them to not be we recognize that they are a regional hegemon, and we need to ensure that regional hegemony stays contained regionally, but doesn't extend out to where they start projecting power disproportionately elsewhere.
We will get back to the vice president breaking news as it pertains to politics, the world, the entire international order. But first, I have some news to break on Mayflower, because our country turns 250 years old this week, the semi-quincentennial of a country built by tobacco. It deserves a cigar worthy of the occasion. I have been teasing this for some months now. It's finally arrived. It is our special 250th anniversary of America Mayflower blend, and it is called Mayflower Dawn of America, special reserve edition of our best-selling flagship blend. This is wrapped in a 7-year aged true USA Connecticut tobacco wrapper. This is grown in the shade of New England. This is the kind of tobacco, it's a more aged, delicious version of the kind of tobacco I grew up smoking. You'll get notes of cream, almond, toasted bread, coffee, presented exclusively in a commemorative box of 10. Each cigar sealed in its own tube. The tubes are beautiful, and the secondary band.
He sounds like, as he's reading this and he kind of gestures with his hands, I wonder if JD is sitting just off screen.
You'll find the words from our framers to ourselves and our posterity. It's just killer. It's just a killer cigar. It's in very, very limited quantity. It was hard to...
There's clearly someone sitting right to his left who's watching him, and he's kind of like, he's sort of talking to them as he talks to the camera.
Get this tobacco in the first place. I'm telling you, this is a limited batch. I don't want to hear it. When they're gone, they're gone. You must be 21 years old or older to order. Void where prohibited. Conditions and exclusions apply.
So where I think that lands for me is, I am very skeptical of AI to the extent that it leads to like porn slop videos and weird child predation stuff on the internet. And I'm more optimistic about AI when it comes to things like curing diseases and solving like very, very big technical challenges for the American people. So, because of that, I think we have to strike a balance. Like, I'm not super laissez-faire on some of the applications of AI, because I do think that some of the AI CEOs fundamentally want to control the information economy in the United States.
I think some of the AI CEOs want to control the information economy in the United States. Yeah, very true.
Want to sell sometimes very damaging things to our children. They want to get rich in the process, and they want to control the government.
Right.
I think that some AI leaders want to build things that are genuinely transformative in a good way, and I don't think that we can be, completely unbiased. You have to sort of pick a side.
Yeah.
And I think in the United States, the side that I pick is pro the people who are building things that are meaningful and valuable, and anti the people who just want to produce slop videos and make it easier for child predators to interact with our kids. The data center thing is interesting. Just if you look at the polling, I've talked to some friends of mine who work in the AI world about this. I don't know if I've ever seen, AI data centers are about as popular as herpes. It's unbelievable how bad the polling is. And my view on this is that it's not really about the data centers, it's about the energy. And that 99% of the backlash to AI data centers is because we're allowing these data centers, especially in blue states where they make it hard to build power, to tap into the grid. So an AI data center literally means you're going to be paying more electricity so that, somebody in Silicon Valley can make another $1 billion. Like, going back to the point about the dignity of human beings, that is not a good trade. That's not a trade that we should accept. But I think the most important solution there is just to build more power. And where I think the Chinese are way ahead of us in AI, it's the only area, is the Chinese are not afraid to build power. We are. And so this is where I think the environmental movement in the United States is going to collide with reality. And it's funny that if the AI people don't figure this out, they're going to be the casualty of this war between building power and the environmental movement in the United States. AI data centers are going to be the first casualty. And, my advice to the AI CEOs would be something like, maybe you should support building more power. And maybe, and we've pursued policies like this in the Trump administration, where you try to force people that if they're going to build an AI data center, they can only do it if it's not going to raise people's power costs.
I can't help but notice that some of...
Yeah, Kate says this point he makes is incredible framing. Yeah, it just... Every single thing that he says it's like my own thoughts being spoken out loud, but typically better than I would ever do it. And imagine this sort of, he completely breaks any lib's model of what a Republican is. And I'm not talking about the ardent political activists. I'm just saying like your ordinary generic normie. Completely breaks their conception of what a Republican is. He really is in his own politics, he represents this a transcendence of not just a synthesis of traditional right-wing versus left-wing within the American context. It's not a synthesis of that. He transcends it. He's got he can speak to the people, and he values the people. He's talking about the dignity of humanity. That in a populist way, he has that populist appeal. But then he also is so he kind of takes away the antipathy that would come from like the labor, the traditionally like Marxist commie side. But then he also can speak to the CEOs. That he's been in the VC world. He knows that world well. He can talk at the business level, and he can also convey to them like this is. Like he's saying, these political realities are real. Whether people are wrong or not, the political realities are real. And if you don't deal with them, you're going to get run over.
Some of the real...
I fucking love trains!
Billionaire obsessives about environmentalism. They've changed their tune. People like Bill Gates, he said... Basically, that global warming was solved. This happens to coincide with this energy crisis for, who knows? Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's providence, who knows? I know you have to go. Yes, you have very important things to do, like help run the whole country. I have two brief questions before you go, and they're sort of like pick a name kind of questions.
Sure.
The leading Democrat for 28.
I think it's got to be AOC. I know that's probably conventional wisdom, but
well, no, I think the conventional wisdom right now is Newsom.
No, I don't buy that. I think he hurt himself with his comment to an audience full of Black Americans that I'm low IQ just like you. It's sort of bad in a couple of different ways.
How do you do, fellow?
Yeah. At least two major political gaffes produced in a single sentence. The major political gaffes I've had, it's sort of much less efficient than that.
Yeah.
My political gaffes aren't nearly as efficient as Gavin Newsom's. I thought that was very interesting that the name he says is AOC.
So yeah, I think all
AOC more than Ossoff, more than any of these other guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's the AOC versus Ossoff thing. I guess the question would be, who do you think really has the power in the Democratic Party? And if you think the answer is like Wall Street and the left of center business community, then it would be Ossoff. And if you think it's the universities, it would be AOC. So David Brooks made an observation.
This is interesting insight, identifying that the different power factions and that Ossoff is clearly the product of one versus the other. And there's this civil war that's happening within the Democrat Party. So he's not saying this explicitly, but by implication here, or by inference, I see this as him affirming that the conflict, the dialectic right now is between AOC and Ossoff. That those are the two primary candidates. And he's just writing off Gavin Newsom completely, not mentioning Kamala at all, which I think is interesting. My position remains that I think it's still going to be Kamala. But if this also seems to indicate, like, he wouldn't be saying this if he wasn't aware of the fact that there is clearly a plan and intention for AOC to run for president. That I would take this as essentially a confirmation that AOC is running for president. Living Dead says he's planting himself plainly on the opposite side of the universities. Right, that too.
And I think David Brooks probably hates my guts, but he like occasionally will say something that I think is genuinely brilliant, and this was one of them. He said that the fundamental problem with today's Democratic Party is that the power center has shifted from unions to universities. And if that's right, AOC will be the nominee. And by the way, I think that's one of the reasons why the Democratic Party of 2026 is so deranged, because, you know, you walk into a union hall, even where 70% of the guys are still voting Dem, fundamentally like a normal place with normal social values.
Yeah.
It's not the university, like, you know, it's not the university break room.
Faculty lounge, yeah.
Faculty lounge, that's the word that I'm looking for.
Right.
So and this, by the way, is another reason why I'm just fundamentally pessimistic about the Dems, because, you know, it's one thing to be a socially pragmatic left of center Democrat on economic issues, but they're just so dominated by the crazy people.
Yeah.
And they can't figure out the part where they get the economic populism, which actually is very popular. And I think Republicans should be more worried about that.
Yeah.
But every time they get the economic populism, it's with somebody like AOC who's like, we need to tax the rich and give all the money to transgender baseball players who prey on your kids. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Could you, like, a very potent political movement would be half of that, whether you agree with it or not.
Yes.
Half of that equation is very politically popular. The part where you allow those.
Yeah, you know who's very, very good at speaking to that half that's very popular, that doesn't have the transgender baseball players preying on children? That guy.
All those same billionaires that you're taxing to get rich by selling unlicensed pharmaceutical products to 12-year-old minors to gender transition them. That's the part that makes most Americans go pharmaceutical. The part where you allow those same billionaires that you're taxing to get rich by selling unlicensed pharmaceutical products to 12-year-old minors to gender transition them. That's the part that makes most Americans go, what the hell are you talking about? And oh, by the way, are you actually against the rich when your social values and your cultural values happen to align with the CEOs of nearly every major corporation?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you saw it just the other day. That.
I will say, I think he needs to get rid of the, like, this thing. It's too close to the hen pecking fingers. I think he needs to get rid of that. But I don't know. Trump does that as well, so maybe I'm wrong.
This Scott Wiener, the guy who's running for Pelosi's seat,
like a true deviant. I mean, there's like something wrong with that guy.
His crowning political achievement was encouraged.
Damn, I forgot about that part. Just, you know, you're the vice president, and this guy's like a member of another political party. Like, it's a little scandalous to be the vice president. At least it has been for most of my life. It'd be scandalous for the vice president to be like, yeah, that guy's just a true deviant. He totally fucked up. Yeah, he's like, no, yeah, that guy is off his rocker.
Encouraging pederasty in the law. That's not an exaggeration. And he was kicked out of the trans march for being too right wing. You know, so that's basically the state of the party. I think
Scott, sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you, my friend. Best of luck.
Last question I have for you before I let you go.
I completely forgot about that part. Sometimes you eat the bar, sometimes the bar eats you. What did he mean by this?
Last name to name. Who's your confirmation saint?
Augustine, St. Augustine. Yep, that's right. So that was an easy choice for me. Confessions was such a big part of my own faith journey. I write about it a little bit in the book, but the city of God and everything that he wrote. So that's an easy one.
In August, we have an Augustinian Pope, an Augustinian Vice President, maybe soon an Augustinian President.
I gave Pope Leo XIV, when I visited him for his inaugural mass, we found a very old copy of Confessions that we gifted him.
That is, now what am I going to get him? I don't know what I'm going to meet him. Mr. Vice President, such a pleasure. Thank you for being very, very generous with your time. Excellent book.
Thank you.
I'm not even lying, as I would be inclined to do for a friend or someone I admire, but this book is really good, so go get it. Communion by J.D. Vance. Thank you, sir.
Good to see you, man. Thanks.
Oh, my vice president. President Augustine. There's got to be some there's got to be some something significant about that. I need to think about that a little further. But the idea of having a president named Augustine at this time. You got Augustine88 in the chat. Thank you, JLH06. Thank you for the $5. You guys probably weren't able to hear hear Dale say salute, so I'll just give you this. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for turning out for yet another great lab. This one was fun. Got some good stuff for tomorrow. Already ready to go. And make sure you guys set aside. Let me which would be better for you guys for the Sudawave? Would you prefer Saturday late afternoon, early evening start time, or would Sunday be better? The day on 4th of July or after 4th of July? Mr. Zeus says, don't do July 4. I'm doing shit. I have a feeling that may be a popular opinion here. Sunday late afternoon. From Alexander the Great to St. Constantine the Great to Augustine the Great. Yeah, right. Yeah, Augustine the Great. Do you guys prefer, those of you who are in the chat right now, do you prefer Saturday afternoon, evening this week or Sunday, since Saturday is 4th of July? I was kind of torn because on one hand, you know, it's a holiday. Maybe people would be hanging out doing something and they would want to watch The Patriot on 4th of July. But then there also may be people who just can't make it at all. So we've got some Saturdays. We've got some Sundays. Some people are saying Sunday. Some people are saying Saturday. Slutty Milk says he'll miss it if it's on Saturday. All right, well, opinions are split. So unless someone makes a very strong case to me for one or the other, then I will just make the decision myself. Let's Suda in the afterglow of the fireworks and festivities with bellies full of leftover burgers and lukewarm beer. You make a strong case, Living Dead. You make a very, very strong case. Well, stay tuned. Go follow the Telegram, t.me/kingpilled. Go join the Kingpilled Discord, kingpilled.com. We will be doing the voice chat on Friday evening, tomorrow evening. So make sure you guys go join the Discord so you can participate in that. And stay tuned. Follow me on X at Kingpilled. And thanks again to everyone who contributed today and to everyone who has bought Eastwood's curriculum from the Amazon list. I'll include it in the next in the notes for this one here as well. If anybody wants to go make my wife happy and give Eastwood some curriculum for first grade. There'll be an Amazon list link. You can go contribute to that. Deeply appreciate you guys. I might have to put together an Amazon link of my own because I've got stuff I've wanted to add to the show, different little things, but I haven't been able to justify the expense. But I know some people it's kind of weird, like it just feels weird to just give a tip or a super chat or whatever. But if they're actually buying something, then they feel better for whatever reason. So be on the lookout for an Amazon list for anybody who wants to contribute to buying stuff for the show directly. I'll get that put together. And my wife says all we have left is his reading program, but that's not on Amazon. I'm so thankful for you all. You guys are the ones who make the show possible. You're the ones who ensure that I can come here and do this show and enjoy it with all of you guys. And so I'll be back tomorrow for another episode of the Astrolabe. Until then, I leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, I'm not